I can't take away the pain I'll cause, but I can pay for it. Just make me pay for it.
There is one charge before you. That is the charge of murder. I suggest there was a plan to confront Caroline on the Black Bridge. It included violence, and that all three accused participated in that. The attack quickly developed into a murderous one with a weapon.
It is likely that the head injury caused her to lose consciousness, with immersion in the water resulting in drowning.
That's what you did. You went down to the River Leven to meet Caroline with your companions, didn't you?
No, I did not.
There is no new witnesses. There is no new DNA scientific type of evidence.
I would submit to you that the doubts in this case are numerous.
And after 27 years of an investigation, that's the best that the prosecutor can offer you. Preposterous.
This is not a case of it's all or nothing. If one of them's guilty, they're all guilty. That is not the case at all. You have to consider the case against each of the accused separately.
What was the argument about?
There was never any argument.
Why was she left face down in the water?
I have not got a clue.
On the 24th of August 1996, a 14-year-old girl went out to meet her then boyfriend. She did not return home and was found the next day, and she was dead. This case is all about what happened to her, and the Crown alleges that this amounted to murder. A view was taken in the past that there was insufficient evidence in this case, but with fresh eyes and re-investigation going over the material that was available, witnesses have said some things that they were not prepared to say at the time. There may have been an element of fear about speaking up in a community where grassing to the police was not something that was viewed favourably by some sectors of the community, but certainly the case is in a different shape than it was in the 1990s.
It's almost 30 years since the death of the schoolgirl Caroline Glachan. Now 3 people are on trial accused of murdering her.
It became one of Scotland's most high-profile unsolved cases. At the time, her mother made an emotional appeal.
We were just here to ask anybody that saw anything, heard anything. She was my only way. Somebody must know something.
Hope. Hope is the only thing that I have got, and I hope that I get some kind of justice for Caroline. And it's going to be a hard trial. It's going to be hard to hear and see things. But I'm going to be there because I feel as Caroline's mother, I've got to be there. I've waited long enough for it. I just thought this was a day that would never come.
This is a complicated case, without question. The 3 accused will each have a team of 3 lawyers, so there'll be 9 lawyers across the table from me.
Court!
Morning.
Call the Diet, His Majesty's Advocate against Robert O'Brien, Andrew Kelly and Donna Marie Brand. Please take a seat.
Yes, who appears?
My Lord, I appear on behalf of the first named accused, Robert O'Brien. My Lord, Mr. O'Brien pleads not guilty. senior counsel is Mr Dogood, KC.
In this case, the allegation of murder is from 1996. One of the questions is, why has this never come to a trial before now? If you call it a cold case, it's a cold case, but with nothing really to warm it up in terms of the advance of scientific technology.
Thank you. Mr. Ranucci.
My lord, I appear on behalf of Mr. Kelly, together with my learned friend Miss McTaggart. He pleads not guilty, and the defence are ready for trial.
Thank you.
A trial is really the test of the Crown case. That is the only issue at trial. Can the Crown prove the charge against the accused? They have the weight of the state against them, really. And the worst case scenario in any trial would be that someone is convicted who is innocent.
Ms. Forrest.
Good morning, my lord. I am instructed to appear on behalf of the third named accused, Donna Marie Brand. She pleads not guilty, and we're ready for trial. Senior counsel is Mr. Thomas Rose, KC.
Thank you.
The fact that there is more than one accused is seldom an advantage to any individual accused. Should that person take the blame for something that somebody else did? Or is it fair to say, well, it's only the person who actually did the act who should take responsibility? And it's 15 members of the public who are trying to separate that out.
So, members of the jury, you are being asked to perform what is, I think, the most important service to your community. We don't have opening speeches in our Scottish system. We simply go straight into the evidence. So the Advocate Depute will begin by leading the evidence for the Crown. Advocate Depute.
Thank you, my lord. The first witness is Margaret McKeach. Margaret McKeach, Caroline's mother, is the first witness in the case, partly to set the scene, partly to assist the jury in understanding some of the relationships and who people are.
Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That I will tell the truth.
That I will tell the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Advocate Depute.
Thank you, my lord. Could we put the computer on the public screens, please? Do you recognise their two photographs of
I do.
Caroline?
Yes.
In August of 1996, Caroline would be 14 years of age, is that correct?
Yes.
And did she have a circle of friends?
She did, yes.
Who in particular was friendly with her?
There was Joanne Menzies.
Did you know of a man called Robbie O'Brien?
Yes.
How did you know of him?
Through Caroline.
Was Caroline in any form of relationship with Robbie O'Brien?
I think she was quite infatuated with him. She was staying with him, yeah.
How old was Robbie O'Brien?
18 years old. I did have words with him about that.
What did you do?
I just asked him what he thought he was playing at with a 14-year-old girl. That I wasn't happy about him, that he should stay away from her.
Now, am I right in saying that in 1996, the 25th of August would have been your 40th birthday, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have any plan at all with regard to that weekend?
We were going to go out for a few drinks.
Yes.
To celebrate. I said to Caroline I was going out for a few hours. Right. She asked me if Joanne could come and stay the night. And I said, yes, of course.
And was that the sort of thing she'd done before?
She had, yes.
And was Joanne someone you trusted?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. When you arrived home, did you look to see who was in your home?
I did.
Who
did you find? In the bedroom, and I saw Joanne. I didn't see Caroline. I spoke to Joanne and asked her where Caroline was.
Right. Did she tell you?
Yes. She went down to the Renton.
She went down to the Renton?
Yes.
And the Renton is an area on the other side of the river, is that right?
That's correct.
Did you have any idea why she would be going down to the Renton?
Well, it would only be to see Robbie and his friends.
Did you think any more of it at that time or not?
I did. I sat, I waited. I phoned round friends, right. And then ultimately the police.
Did you receive bad news that day?
I did.
When was that?
It was in late afternoon.
And who gave you that news?
Police.
What did they tell you?
That they had found a body. Going by the description that it could be Caroline, but I needed to identify her body.
Did you identify your daughter?
I did.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any cross-examination, Mr. Duguid?
I do, please. Thank you. Cross-examination is something which can be very difficult. To have Caroline's mother in the witness box is a difficult job. She was the most deserving of sympathies, but when your instructions are as they are, then you have to serve the best interests of your client rather than come across as a nice person.
Mrs. McKeach, I know you've been speaking about your 14-year-old daughter and August of 1996. And am I right in thinking that around that time, there had been a couple of instances when Caroline had stayed out and hadn't come home? Would that be correct?
That would be correct, yes.
Now, on the occasion of your birthday, I think you noticed that your bank card was missing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you ask Caroline whether she had your bank card?
She did have it.
And am I also correct in thinking that you'd had a conversation with Caroline about heroin?
I did, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. She told me she had tried, but she didn't like it.
Did you ever associate the absence of your bank card with the prospect of heroin being bought?
No.
I think she was also in the habit of wearing jewellery, and in fact, quite liked wearing your jewellery. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did some of your jewellery go missing?
It did.
So if I understand correctly, Mrs. McKeach, around the time of her death, there were a number of things going on in her life which perhaps she wasn't being entirely honest about in her explanations to you. Is that fair?
That's fair. Be fair of most teenagers.
Thank you very much. In this case, the essential part is that the three accused persons have all got the same alibi. They were in the same house during the period when the crime was alleged to have been committed. The alibi is saying, we are not the people who've committed this crime because we were elsewhere and somebody else was responsible for her murder.
Thank you, Mr. Ranucci.
No, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
No question, thank you, Lord. When you're representing the third accused in a trial, then often the more relevant points have been already made. So you don't get up unless it's necessary and you're confident you can make things better.
Thank you very much then, Mrs. McKeach. There are no further questions for you. That's you free to go. Thank you very much for giving evidence.
The Crown case is that Caroline Glachen was in a relationship with Robbie O'Brien, who at the same time was in a relationship with Donna Brand. And what appears to have happened is that an arrangement was made for Caroline to meet with Robbie O'Brien. But in addition, Donna Brand, Andrew Kelly and Sarah Jane O'Neill were also present. And the Crown case is that all four would have been responsible, but Sarah Jane O'Neill has since died, so the three accused are now on trial for Caroline's murder. I'm going to call the person who found Caroline in the water. That's to set the scene of where we say the murder was committed. I'd like to ask you about the events of Sunday, the 25th of August 1996. At some point in that afternoon, did you find yourself near the River Leven?
It was 3:15. Know what I mean? I know that bang on. When I was going round to the water, onto the path, I just seen the black hair, which will never leave me. Then I noticed the trainers, because they were brand new.
Yes. I'd like to show you a map. Do you see the River Leven meandering its way.
All the way around, aye.
Now, do you see there's a circle there with an arrow and a box that said Black Bridge?
Yes.
Was there a bridge known as the Black Bridge at that?
There was, yes.
I think it's no longer there, is that right?
Yeah, it's no, yeah.
Is that roughly where the body was found, on the river?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Duguid.
I have a few questions, thank you.
Now, Mr. Mullen, I just have a few questions about, I suppose, the drug scene in 1996 in the Renton. And please don't think any of these questions are trying to embarrass you, but I know that you'd been an addict. Is that right?
Well, once you're an addict, you're always an addict.
Were you addicted to heroin?
Yes. I used to sell it.
Okay. On the matter of walking around the street with quantities of heroin in your possession.
I didn't see the Renton, you didn't need to walk about the street. You just had to sit somewhere. People would just pull up, boom, boom, boom. Know what I mean? You could sell 10 bags within 10 minutes.
When you were carrying heroin, where did you carry it?
In my mouth.
Inside your mouth?
Yeah.
Now, I take it the reason for all that would be if somebody stops you, like a police officer, and wants to search you, then they're not readily going to find a quantity of drugs, unless they choose to look inside your mouth. Is that right?
Well, I would have swallowed it.
Sorry?
I would have swallowed it. Because when you wrap it up, you wrap it up tight and you wrap it up well.
Did you ever hide it in your shoes?
No.
All right.
It's hard to put your finger on what was happening back then, but in the end of the day, it's about a girl being murdered at the side of a river, and there was a backdrop of people making money out of the terrible trade in controlled drugs. The number of young people involved in it was quite shocking, really.
The police have described the killing as seemingly motiveless, but the area where Caroline's body was found is said to be a favourite haunt of drug abusers.
The murder of a child in any community causes extreme distress which lasts for decades. So there was a real desire for the police to identify those responsible and bring them to justice.
Caroline was last seen alive at shops in her hometown, Bonhill. It's known she was heading for Renton on the other side of the river, but after that all police are disclosing is the fact that passers-by found her body.
At the time, there was a significant investigation, but it didn't yield sufficient evidence.
Detectives are still utterly baffled by the apparently motiveless killing here of Caroline Glacken. They're also confused by the public apathy shown in this case.
This is a case which we thought would be worthwhile looking at again. So the police did a complete rework of the whole case.
Caroline was only 14, Robbie O'Brien was 18. He is also in a relationship with Donna Brand, and Donna Brand at that time is pregnant to Robbie O'Brien. A lot of the witnesses that would have been in their lives at that point were obviously of those kind of ages and involved in the drug scene. So you have that reluctance to speak to the police. People don't want to be seen to be a grass. And when you look at the people who were involved, maybe some people felt intimidated that if they spoke out, would that bring trouble to them. I think, you know, the original inquiry team faced those kind of barriers, whereas we're coming into it years later and times have changed, people have grown up, allegiances have changed. The 4 people as it was, although there's only 3 standing trial, had been in the original inquiry, but there wasn't the evidence there that we have to be able to put them to court at that time.
Court.
When you have more than one accused, and in this case we have 3 accused in the dock, in one sense there are 3 separate trials running, and I have to think carefully about building a case against each separate accused. You would be aware that Caroline's body was found in the River Leven, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That was a Sunday. When was the time before the Sunday that you saw Caroline?
On Saturday night.
The Saturday the 24th?
Yeah.
Where did you see her?
Renton. She came at my dad's door.
Did she indicate she was going to meet anyone?
Yeah, Robbie.
Did Caroline say anything about being pregnant to you?
That wasn't at that point, no, it was before that.
Do you remember the police asking you about this in 2020?
Vaguely, yeah.
Vaguely, all right. Could you have before you production 96? Does it say this? We sat in the house and I remember her telling me that she had told Robbie O'Brien that she was pregnant.
Yes.
She was really excited at meeting him later. Does it say that in the statement?
Yes.
Did you say that to the police?
Yes.
Robbie O'Brien was seeing Donna Brand as well as Caroline, is that correct?
Yes.
What was Donna's reaction to the fact that Robbie was seeing Caroline?
She just wasn't happy and she was going to batter her.
Right. Donna said that?
Yeah.
Donna was not happy and she was
Yes.
going to batter her?
Yes.
And when you say her, who do you mean?
Caroline.
Did she give a reason for that?
I think it was just because they were seeing the same man.
Right. And just finally, would it be fair to say that among some within the community life in 1996 was an ongoing cycle of drug taking and stealing from shops and selling
Aye,
things?
boys, that's what we done for it. Aye, we done it, always done it.
Yeah. And as a consequence of that, was it the done thing to speak to the police?
No.
Thank you.
Probably the witness who has given a number of contradictory accounts is the easiest witness to deal with. And if you start in an area where the witness knows that she's said contradictory things, then the jury might be thinking, well, how can we really depend on anything that this witness has said? 28th of August 1996. That's when you first gave a statement to the police, wasn't it?
Well, it says here, yeah.
Does it read, I last saw Caroline last Tuesday or Wednesday in Renton at the shops and I spent some time talking to her. Does it say that?
Yes, but see, that time I was a drug addict and we weren't being honest where we were and all that because like police were looking for us.
So at the time you knew when you were giving this statement that Caroline had been at your dad's house in the Renton on the Saturday night, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you were asked about it on the Wednesday, you just sat there with the police and lied your head off, didn't you?
No, actually, most of the questions I remained silent as well. Back then, I was scared of the gang in case they got done in. I apologised to Caroline's family. I can't say anything else. I lied.
And you never mentioned it to anyone in authority until 2020.
Correct.
You see, I represent Donna Brand, and that's really what all this is about, that ultimately the ladies and gentlemen will have to wrestle with this question. How much can a heroin addict remember all these years after the event? That would be a fair
Facts,
question,
probably,
wouldn't it?
Facts and traumas.
Could you have a look for me, please, at the second page of that statement? Does it read, there was no hassle between Caroline or Donna that I was aware of?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Advocate Deputy, re-examination.
Thank you, my lord. So I just want to clarify, you told us Donna Brand had made a threat. Is that the truth?
Donna Brand was angry, as she would be if somebody was seeing a man.
Thank you.
This is the area where the witnesses have found Caroline. So what we know from the reinvestigation is that Caroline believed that she was pregnant, and you've got that whole complex relationship between him seeing both Caroline and Donna, potentially believing that both of them were then pregnant, and Donna finding that out as well. Is that the catalyst for the confrontation?
There's a Caroline in a school photo. That was the last, that was when she was 14. So that's basically the last photo that I've got of her. She liked the camera, she would just stop. You know, she had a great smile. Everybody thinks she had a great smile. Very loving, very caring. She would go out with her friends, but she would stop in at my mum's, make my mum a cup of tea, take her yum-yums, see how she was doing, and then go back out with her friends. She was spoiled, I would say she was probably spoiled, because she is, or was, my only child. I lost 5 before I had Caroline, so she was special in a lot of ways. Even in days when there's a bit of joy or something nice happens, it's always tinged, because there's always that bit there was, she's not here.
Good morning, members of the jury. And welcome back to day 2 of the trial. We've got a lot to get through, so Advocate Depute.
Thank you, my lord. The next witness was a police diver at the time, and this evidence will relate to the recovery of the body of Caroline Glachan, and I propose to show a film of that event. I've, of course, given careful thought as to whether it's truly necessary, but in my view it is. It's distressing viewing, but I just make that known to everybody.
Yes, well, if anyone wishes to leave, obviously they may do so. Members of the jury, you should only have to see it once.
The circumstances surrounding the death of Caroline Glachan are truly horrific. What we say is that the 3 accused, and there would have been a 4th, all met Caroline Glachan. She was attacked in their presence, and after the attack, Caroline Glachan was left face down in the River Leven. On Sunday, the 25th of August 1996, were you part of a 3-man team requested to attend at the River Leven at Renton?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
It was to recover a body from the river and carry out a search for any evidence.
Right, I'd like to show a film, Recovery of Body, River Leven. Could we put the laptop on, please? Do you see there an image of a body in the river?
Yes.
And is that what you saw on that occasion?
Yes, it is.
Can we see there the body appears to be face down in the water?
Yes.
That plays a lot in my mind. I mean, what was her last moments? And guilt plays a lot in my mind. Where was I when she needed me? I'm her mother. But you can't protect them all the time. And sort of logic side of me says that, but I should have been there.
What the Crown has to prove in this case, first of all, is that murder was committed. The second thing that has to be proved is that the accused were responsible. Now, where you have a number of accused, each of those accused may have different roles in the commission of the murder. I'm going to call the pathologist who will be able to tell us what the examination of the body revealed.
At post-mortem examination, her lungs showed classical features of drowning. In addition, she had a significant head injury, with a number of blunt force type injuries to the face and scalp. These included a group of injuries over the left side of the forehead, which would be consistent with a number of blows with a long, narrow, blunt weapon, and over the right side of the face, which would suggest a single blow with such a weapon. It is likely that the head injury caused her to lose consciousness, with immersion in the water resulting in drowning. There was no evidence of alcohol or drug intoxication, and there was no natural disease that could have caused or contributed to her death.
Were there fractures in the underlying skull?
There were extensive fractures of her skull.
Were you able to determine if she was pregnant?
There was no indication of that at all. We examined in detail. There was no indication of any pregnancy.
Thank you. And you also told us a moment ago that it is likely that the head injury would cause her to lose consciousness, and that resulted in drowning. Is that correct?
Yes, it indicates that she was still alive when she was in the water, and that drowning has been the ultimate explanation for her death.
Thank you very much. Caroline Glacken was alive when she went into the water. The person that yielded the blows to her head is not solely responsible for the death. They all left her. No one sought to take her out of the water and assist her, and in due course I will suggest that that's significant.
Marjorie Turner gave evidence about a skull fracture, and it occurred to me perhaps that it was maybe less likely that Donna Brand at the time would have had the strength to have caused a skull fracture.
Dr. Turner, it's right to say that the skull is designed to provide protection to the brain, is that correct?
Yes.
And it requires a certain degree of force to occasion a fracture to the skull, is that correct?
Yes.
But I suppose it must be the case that the stronger the individual who's administering the blows, the more likely it is to result in a skull fracture.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm not saying that any of the co-accused did it, but is it something that would have been caused by 17-year-old Donna Brand?
Were you a close friend of Caroline Glacken?
Yeah, I was her best friend, yeah.
And would you do the sort of things teenagers would do together?
Yeah, we would go out, or we would go up into Caroline's house with her mum. Yeah. And she would make my dinner and I'd stay over.
And were boys of an interest round when you were 15 and she was 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Was Caroline friendly with any boys in particular?
Robert O'Brien.
Robert O'Brien?
Yes.
Would you recognise him if you saw him after this time? Do you see him in court?
Yes, I can see him.
And please point to him, please.
He's right there.
He was a little older than Caroline at the time, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. From your friendship with Caroline, did you get any sense of how the relationship between Robbie and Caroline was?
Quite violent.
Right. In what way?
On numerous occasions I stopped him attacking her. Right. I would attack her, bully her.
What would he do?
Grab her neck and slam her into the wall.
Did she say anything about a possible consequence if she kissed somebody else?
He would kill her. The violence was getting worse.
Now, I'd like to ask you about Saturday, the 24th of August, 1996. Did Caroline say what she was planning to do that evening?
She said she was going to go and visit Robbie and then be back home for two in the morning before her mum came home.
Right. Did she say where?
He was going to meet her at the Black Bridge on the Bonhill side.
The Black Bridge?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to go to drone footage. Now, can we see the river?
Yeah, and then the Black Bridge would be straight across there.
Yeah. And there are pillars there, is that
yeah,
where
the
Black
pillar's still
Bridge
there,
was?
yeah. That's the Leydon shops.
Yes.
That's where I left Caroline.
Yeah. Was your anticipation then that you would go to Caroline's mum's house, you'd let yourself in with the keys Caroline gave you?
Yes.
You would wait on her coming in, which she said would be about 2 in the morning?
Yeah.
And were you hoping that Caroline would turn up before her mother came home?
Because Margaret was like a mother to me, so I didn't want to row off Margaret. when she came in.
Okay. Did you come to learn that a body had been found in the River Leven?
Yes, they said it was Caroline.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Dogood.
Yes.
After she had been discovered as having been murdered, you were interviewed by the police a number of times, is that correct?
Lots of times, yeah.
The first interview was on the very day itself, the 25th of August.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yes.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was you said that her involvement with the controlled drug heroin was a bad thing for her. Is that right?
Yes, she wasn't a full-blown addict.
But it sounds like she had started out on heroin before she'd ever met Mr. O'Brien.
No.
Well, you're saying no, but did you not explain that very thing to the police?
When?
I'm not trying to catch you out, by the way. I'm just asking you about things you've previously indicated to the police, I assume were true. So what are you saying? He's got her into drugs?
I don't know who got her into drugs.
Let's supposing she'd gone to buy a quantity of drugs, say a £10 bag or £20 worth of drugs. What would she be doing with the drugs? And you were asked about that
she'd have
by
put
the
it in her
police,
trainer.
weren't you?
She'd have put it in her trainer.
Sorry?
She probably would have put it in her trainer or her bra.
So she'd put it in her bra or in her trainer?
Yes.
Did you know she was found with no trainers on?
I found out after, yeah.
Caroline's trainers were found on the embankment, so they were not on her in the water. The defence will undoubtedly try to suggest a reason that it might be connected with drug taking or something.
Mr. O'Brien's position is he wasn't at the location when the crime was committed and that another person had been identified as acting suspiciously in the area and could have been involved in the murder.
So I want to ask you about somebody else altogether, somebody called George Graham. And George Graham is somebody about whom you spoke to the police on at least 3 occasions.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
And George Graham was somebody who knew Caroline Glacken, it seems. Is that right?
Yes, he would give her lifts down to Robbie, to see Robbie.
And what would George Graham's interest be in giving Caroline a lift, do you think?
I don't know, but I watched him doing it.
So what was it that caused you having to go to the police in 1997?
George Graham said he'd never given any as a lift.
That's not the reason you went to the police in 1997, is it? That is not the reason you went to the police, is it?
People told me things but didn't want to get involved with the police, so I would contact the CID and tell them.
So people had told you things and you contacted the police, is that
Yeah,
right?
because they didn't like the police.
All right, thank you.
The police had recovered information from witnesses which pointed the finger towards that other person, and in the course of the trial, evidence will be led about how that other person could have been involved in the murder because of things he said and because of his movements on the night.
The police arrested George Graham in the earlier investigation partly because he appears to have confessed to the murder to a number of individuals. The defence, quite understandably, have brought him into this case, although he is now dead. But what they have done is lay the foundation to enable them to lead that evidence, and I will respond to that as best I can, depending what they do.
Way back then, you hear a lot of rumours and things, and you don't know what's true and what's not. Back then, I was suspicious of everybody because you don't know. Although there was that 4 that was always in my mind. To see them as well, Because it's a small place, so it's hard not to run into folk and to refrain from saying anything. Nobody would ever know what that takes. And I think it's just the hope that they would be caught. It was just getting proof.
In this case, all three accused have an alibi. They say they were in a flat babysitting, along with Sarah Jane O'Neill, and that they never left. But I see my task as undermining that alibi and demonstrating that it's not true.
Court!
It is usually the case in murder prosecutions that you don't have eyewitnesses to the murder. This case is unusual in the sense that I suggest that a young boy called Archie was present when the murder was committed. He told his mother about the events down near the river. In August of 1996, if you wanted to go out somewhere, you would arrange for babysitting, is that correct?
Yes, every weekend I would get either a Friday night out or a Saturday night afternoon to watch kids for me, like we got to my sister's.
Right. Is your sister called Daisy?
Yes.
Right. Did you have any people in particular who would babysit for you?
There would always be Andy, who was amazing to my kids, and Sarah Jane.
Were Andy and Sarah Jane O'Neill in any kind of relationship you're aware of?
Boyfriend and girlfriend, but it was off and on, so...
Okay. Would that involve sometimes that they would stay over?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to ask you about Saturday, the 24th of August, 1996.
Yep.
Was that an occasion where you had asked Andy and Sarah Jane to babysit for you?
Yes.
Right. Apart from Sarah Jane and Andy babysitting, did you expect anyone else to be in the house?
No.
Would you have agreed
No.
for someone else to be there?
No.
On this Sunday, when you went back to your home, tell us what you found.
But like, I knew Andy was there, but there was no Sarah Jane.
Right. Did you notice anything about the carpet?
Well, Andy told me that Archie peed on him,
He said Archie had peed on him.
and peed the floor as well.
Right.
So when he went away, I felt the carpet was running.
Ringing and
soaking me.
Soaking wet. Tell us what Archie said about this.
Archie told me that he was down the leaving maiden, and it was because somebody was sitting on the floor, they were soaking.
Right. He was down the leaving?
Yes.
Right.
This says, when we down there?
Yeah.
He says, last night, Mummy. I don't know what time.
Did he say what had happened?
He says he was down the leaving, Sarah Jane was there, Robbie was there, Donna was there, and they were fighting maybe a lassie, and she ended up phoning the leaving. And the barge of a lassie.
When Archie said these things about being down the river, was that before or after you learned of a body being found?
That was before it.
Before?
Because when I found out, that's when I realised my Wayne had obviously been telling me the truth.
The timings of his disclosure to his mother are significant pieces of the evidence.
We know when she was discovered, and if he's able to tell his mother about events down at the river before Caroline's body is found, I would see that as being important.
There is some confusion as to how quickly after the event the wee boy gave his account. And if he's giving an account after news of the incident has leaked out into the community, then that weakens it.
You gave some statements to the police way back in 1996, didn't you?
Oh.
And the first statement to the police is the best account that you could give as to what Archie had said and when he'd said it.
Yes.
And as it reads, I asked him who else was in the house. Was Robbie's girlfriend in with him? And he said, aye, that they'd stayed and slept on the couch. He told me they'd been wrapping up tinfoil and lighting it. Then he looked a wee bit sorry and said Sarah Jane and Andy had told him not to tell Mummy, and let things go at that and didn't ask any more. And now you say, I left my house with the Waynes and we went up to Daisy's house, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That was about 7 or 8 p.m. or so. By then, I knew that Caroline's body had been found.
Oh.
So Would you agree with me that now you've had the chance to refresh your memory by reference to this statement, it doesn't look as if anything had been said about the leaving until Daisy came? Yeah. And I suppose in a wee place like Bonhill, there was a lot of talk as to what had happened and what might have happened and that. Would I be right about that? Okay. So we're now at Daisy's house, I think, and you say, the thing that shocked me was Archie, in Daisy's house, he said a male person had kicked a girl into the leaving and her leg was bleeding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The mother's evidence became that the wee boy had said to her that Donna Brand had battered the wee girl. But it was clear from her statements in 1996 that the mum had not given that account to the police. And by the end of it, his mother accepted that he couldn't have said that. If he had said it, she would have told the police, and therefore that must have been something that she heard in the rumours which were going round the scheme after the incident.
Thank you. Advocate Depute, re-examination.
I do, my lord, thank you. It's always a challenge when there is inconsistency. Archie does not name Donna Brand, and that will be preyed upon by the defence. If we return to what you told us earlier about Archie talking about what happened at the leave-in when you were in the house with him just after Andy left.
Yes, because I was actually going to say that when the other wee man was speaking, because he put it across, too late to finish, he put it across that I didn't actually say anything to Archie until my sister came in the house. No, I'd already asked Archie before Daisy came down.
Yes. And did he tell you about something happening in the leave-in at that stage?
Yes, he did.
Yes. Was that before anyone told you a body had been found?
Aye.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is that me done?
Yes.
Generally speaking, witnesses to fact would come and give evidence in court. In this case, Archie grew up and has some medical issues which prevent him from being able to give evidence. However, the police interviewed Archie as a 4.5-year-old boy and filmed the interview. The importance of that is that the jury see firsthand the evidence of the young boy and can take account of the detail which he gave.
I can't think of an example where a boy of 4.5 was so absolutely key to the whole case.
I want to ask you about a police inquiry into the death of Caroline Glacken. Was that an inquiry that you were brought into?
That's correct, yes.
Now, as part of that inquiry, were you made aware of the desire to interview a young boy?
Yes, I was.
In those days, were there particular training given as to the best way to approach interviewing a child?
I certainly hadn't been given any.
All right, so were you dispatched to go and interview a child as best you could?
Yes, I was.
We'll play Archie interview.
You jump on the seat. Hey, Archie, you know this is on the video, that's a video up there. You saw it, didn't you? Where'd you went? That's right. Hey, Archie, do you remember when you told me Caroline was in the water? Can you tell me who was there?
Me,
Uh-huh.
Sarah Jane and Robbie,
Sarah Jane and Robbie.
Andy and Sarah.
Where were you?
In the leaving.
In the leaving.
Now what should I draw?
Draw me the picture of the leaving.
There's water.
And all the water.
Caroline, me, Bobby, Sarah, Jane.
Right. Did you see what happened to Caroline?
No,
No?
that was my eyes.
Close your eyes. Why did you close your eyes?
All I wanted to.
Uh-huh.
But I saw the but when they got up, I didn't see it falling into the water.
And who did you see hitting it?
Bobby.
See when you were doing the leaving?
Yeah.
Was it dark?
Yes. Do we have no street lights on there?
No streetlights. Archie, do you want to tell us about Caroline? How did she get hurt?
A metal pole. Because there was some metal in the eye.
Archie talks about Caroline getting metal in her eye and an injury being caused. Now, of course, we've heard from the pathologist who illustrated to the jury that there was such an injury, and the question would be, how would he know that?
How do you know? I thought you said you had your eyes closed.
I closed my eyes when the metal was in her eyes. When she pushed in the water, I closed my eyes.
Why did Robbie push her in?
Because it felt like it should.
What kind of pole was it?
Metal pole.
Was it a big pole?
The size of this room.
Big long pole? Where did he get the pole?
Up my mother.
And did he take it down with him?
Yeah, and he took it back up.
Did anybody else hit Caroline?
No, it's Bobby.
Archie?
I don't want to be here.
Right, go on through the Lord.
It's difficult to know why more was not made of that film in the earlier investigation, but I suspect that the feeling was that overall the case fell just short of what would be sufficient. And we have to bear in mind that there's other key evidence which was not available at the time.
Thank you. Mr. Dogood, cross-examination.
Yes, please. Were you aware that the young boy had been interviewed by police officers on the 26th of August?
I was aware he had been interviewed before.
This document is a transcript of the interview, and perhaps could you put on the screen the part which starts, "Right, okay, do you know anybody called Robbie?" You can see on the screen it says, "Do you know anybody called Robbie?" The answer is nope. So did you know that the child you were interviewing had not been able to identify a person by the name of Robbie in an earlier interview?
No, I did not.
The child's evidence was given in 3 different formats. He'd spoken to his mother, he was video recorded on one occasion, he was audio recorded on another. Not all of the versions are consistent with one another.
It will be obvious from that transcript that Archie's evidence is at times confused, but in one sense that is to be expected of a 4.5-year-old boy. I just want to read some sections of it, and if I adopt the role of your colleague, would you adopt the role of Archie Wilson in the answers?
Yes.
Archie, did you tell Mummy a story about something that happened on Saturday night?
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me what happened?
Somebody died in the water.
And do you know how that happened?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us?
Somebody flung boulders and that at her. I know who it was.
Do you? Would you like to tell me?
Andy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You telling the truth? Right.
And I said that to my mummy and my aunt. It was the truth.
All right, thank you very much. It is, of course, a concern that a very young boy is giving evidence in a murder trial, and some people might think that a 4-year-old boy is not someone who can be relied upon.
It's something the jury have to consider. If they think a 4.5-year-old is inherently unreliable, and the fact that he has given 3 separate accounts proves that, then as judges they have to reject the evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Ranucci.
Right, Lord. Often, the Crown have only led part of a witness's evidence, and if there are any other aspects of their statement that you feel will be of assistance to the defence, part of my job will be to bring the rest of their evidence out in order often that the jury will have the full picture. By the time you come to interview Archie, you have no idea what information he's been exposed to already, do you?
No, I don't.
No. And I think you'll agree that children, and particularly young children, they can be influenced by what they hear.
I suppose so, yes.
We all can.
Yeah.
Did it all make sense to you?
No, because it was an interview with a child.
Yes. And just to set it up, we can see if you turn to page 1. So who was watching you when Mummy was out? And it's his answer to that, I do this on my speedboat. He's not even answering the question that's been asked. He's distracted by some sort of a toy that he's got, a speedboat or something.
Yeah.
There's another reference to that, but then there's a question halfway down the page where it says what happened Saturday, and he says somebody died in the water. See that?
Yes.
But of course, this interview's taking place on the Monday. The information that someone had been found in the water and had died, that was in the public domain by the Sunday, wasn't it?
It would have been, yes.
Yes. And at the bottom, your colleague says, right, can you tell me how you know that happened? And he gives an answer to that.
He does, yeah.
Top of page 19. Because I saw it when I was with my Auntie Daisy. So by that point, he is now telling you that he knows this because that was something he saw when he was with his Auntie Daisy.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense, did it?
No.
No. And then if we turn over to page 21, there's our change of subject where your colleague says, Archie, can you tell me something? How did your mummy's carpet get all wet? And he says, because the boy fell in the water. When he's asked him, was anybody with him when he fell in? His answer's yeah, his pals. Guess who helped him out? See that?
Yeah.
And he says, me. So really, what he's saying there is that the pal that helped him out was 5-year-old Archie. Correct?
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
Not particularly, no.
And then it carries on. At the bottom it says, see when Sarah Jane was in the house, yeah, she's the one that done it. See that?
Yeah.
And then he's asked, what did Sarah Jane do? What's his answer?
Don't know.
He's not making an awful lot of sense, is he?
No.
No. OK. Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. No further questions.
Adjourn till 10:15 tomorrow morning.
It's really hard to sit and hear and listen. You're leaving these decisions to 15 people and they've got to sift through what's right, what's wrong, or what's truthful and what's not. I really don't know what the outcome will be. It's really hard to say. And at this stage, I think, getting into the second week, yeah, I'm scared. Because I don't know what's coming.
My lord, is it OK if I say something before we start?
Ladies and gentlemen, the doubts in this case are numerous.
We started talking and I asked St George, did you kill that Wayne? He turned and looked at me and said, aye.
There is no new scientific type of evidence.
And after 27 years, that's the best that the prosecutor can offer you.
Members of the jury, have the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
What is your verdict in respect of Robert O'Brien, Andrew Kelly and Donna Marie Brand? Call the die, His Majesty's Advocate against Robert O'Brien, Andrew Kelly and Donna Marie Brand.
The fact that there is more than one accused is incredibly difficult for a jury. There needs to be evidence that the whole group participated, and it's 15 members of the public who are trying to separate that out.
Caroline Glacken was 14 years old when she died.
Her body was found in the River Leven. She had serious head injuries.
She was my only friend. Somebody must know something.
At post-mortem examination, her lungs showed classical features of drowning.
Caroline Glacken was alive when she went into the water. They all left her. Robbie O'Brien was seeing Donna Brand as well as Caroline, is that correct?
Yes.
What was Donna's reaction?
She just wasn't happy and she was going to batter her.
Donna was not happy and she was
Yes.
going to batter her.
There's really very little evidence implicating any of them except the evidence of the wee boy.
This case is unusual in the sense that I suggest that a young boy was present when the murder was committed.
Hey Archie, you remember when you told me Caroline was in the water? Can you tell me, who did you see hitting her?
Bobby,
How did she get hit?
a big pool.
Was it a big fall?
It says in this room.
There's a danger in just accepting what a 4.5-year-old says.
Andy flung boulders at her. I think this is a skittle there.
He's not making an awful lot of sense, is he?
No.
So I want to ask you about somebody else altogether, somebody called George Graham. And George Graham is somebody who spoke to the police on at least 3 occasions.
Yes.
The police had recovered information which pointed the finger towards another person, not the 3 accused.
I really don't know what the outcome will be, and at this stage, yeah, I'm scared. Because I don't know what's coming.
On the 24th of August 1996, Caroline Glacken was brutally murdered at the River Leven. The Crown case is that Robbie O'Brien is the one who inflicted the serious injury to Caroline, but the others were participant in that.
In this case, the essential part is the defense of alibi. In other words, the 3 accused persons say they were in the same house together at the time when the murder was said to have been committed.
They say they were in a flat together, babysitting, along with Sarah Jane O'Neill, who is now deceased, and that they never left that flat.
Yes, Advocate Depute.
Thank you, my lord. The next witness is Crown Witness Linda Dorian. I have evidence which will suggest that they did leave, that all 4 left with the children and then returned. If the jury accept that, then they would reject the alibi. In 1996, where did you live?
Allen Crescent.
What number?
10.
10. And did you have a neighbour underneath you?
Yes.
I'd like to look at, this is label 23. We can see 2 windows at the top above. Do you recognise that as your apartment?
Yes.
Yes. Am I right in saying the police spoke to you back in 1996?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that come about?
Came to the front door, just came to the door.
Right, okay. And you gave a statement at that time?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you expect them to come back and see you?
Yes.
Yeah. Did they ever do that?
Years later, yeah.
Years later?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a number of years, it didn't look as if there was going to be some sort of significant breakthrough. The forensic work was exhausted and I didn't have anything. The reinvestigation, it was really going to have to come back down to reviewing the basics. So what we wanted to do was go back, trace everybody that lived in Allen Crescent at that time and go and speak to them. So this is Allen Crescent. This is where Robbie and Donna, Andrew Kelly were babysitting young Archie and Jamie. The alibi given was that they never ever left 12 Allen Crescent, and they maintained they were there all night and maintained that, for 20 odd years.
Tonight, a house in Renton is under police guard, minutes from where Caroline's body was found.
In that first original inquiry, Linda, she'd been visited during door to door. I don't think the original inquiry team asked the kind of pertinent questions. When we did the re-investigation, we obviously were able to elicit more information. It was a real turning point and certainly helped us to then really focus in on the occupants that had been in 12 Allen Crescent that night.
Now, on Saturday, the 24th of August, 1996, were you at home with your daughter?
Yes.
How old would she be in 1996?
10.
10, OK. Later on in the evening, did you see someone going into 12 Allen Crescent?
I knew Sarah Jane. Other ones, I wasn't sure of their names. I just kind of knew them to see. One of the boys was Sarah Jane's boyfriend at the time.
Right.
I knew him as Andy.
Andy?
Yeah.
Right. Did you realise that Sarah Jane and her boyfriend were the babysitters?
Yes.
Now, around about midnight, was there a film that you wanted to watch?
Yeah. I was waiting for a film to start. I heard the voices and everybody leaving, and Sarah Jane was bumping the buggy down to come out.
Right.
I went to the window because I thought it was a bit late for her to be taking the baby out in the buggy.
What did you see?
Archie was at the side of the buggy, and Sarah Jane's boyfriend was beside her, and the other two, a male and a female, were in front of her.
What direction did they go?
Down the Crescent, out the street, towards the main road. And then I settled down to watch the film.
What was the next thing that happened?
I heard Sarah Jane's voice, as if they were in the street.
Had your film started?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sometime after that. Okay.
Yeah. And then I heard the gate opening and somebody coming in the gate. By the time I went to the window, I could see them going back in. The same people who left the house coming back to the house.
Was this a loud commotion?
Yes. My daughter, she had got up. She was a bit frightened. She's like, what's the noises? And I was like, it's okay, just go back to bed.
Were you alarmed by this?
Yeah.
What was it?
Loud voices shouting. Also, like someone was upset. Like if you were to start to cry and you were trying to catch your breath,
yeah.
like that kind of noise. I don't want to say like a wailing, but someone was distressed.
Someone was distressed?
Yeah.
I could hear another female, not Sarah Jane, who was upset, kind of wailing, crying.
Did you hear anything said?
Sarah Jane, she was shouting at a male because she was shouting, you're a dick, you're a prick, calling him names, saying it was out of order. That was a set-up. That wasn't meant to happen. No, that wasn't what was to happen.
They were shouting something about the Waynes.
The Waynes?
The Waynes, and that came from Sarah Jane because I recognised her voice straight away. And it wasn't supposed to happen like that.
It wasn't supposed to happen like that?
Yeah.
Did you recognise that voice?
Again, Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane.
It went really quiet after that.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dogood, cross-examination.
This trial has given rise to a number of witnesses who have changed their evidence in quite a noticeable way. So essentially, you're questioning the credibility and reliability of individual witnesses, but the Crown case in general.
You've been explaining how you saw 4 people leaving the house.
Yeah, I saw them leave, yes.
Can I ask you to have a look at a document then, please? It's headed Strathclyde Police Witness Statement. So it's just before midnight. I was waiting for the film to start when I heard a commotion downstairs. About 5 minutes later, the door opened and closed, and I thought someone left, but I did not look out.
Yep.
So I don't know, what am I meant to think, but more appropriately, what are the ladies and gentlemen meant to think?
I wouldn't say it unless I'd seen it.
That's what I'm really struggling with myself.
The purpose often in defence counsel is to test a witness's evidence and to really give the jury reasons why they shouldn't simply accept the Crown case. You've spoken to your mum about this case, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the expressions your mum used in her evidence, that she heard a female wailing and crying. That would be a coincidence, wouldn't it?
No, it wouldn't be a coincidence if it was what we both heard.
In fact, it might be a double coincidence, the coincidence being that neither of you used that phrase in 1996.
Well,
do you
as
see
a
that?
10-year-old, a wailing wouldn't be a word that I would use.
I'm not suggesting that you're lying today, but what I'm suggesting is the passage of time, hearing people speaking about things, all these things have impacted in your memory, and you've simply got it wrong, haven't you?
No. I remember that night haunts me. And I don't forget something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any re-examination?
It's obvious that when this crime was first being investigated, the statements being taken at that time were not of the detail that one might expect. When the police saw you back in 1996, were they conducting door-to-door inquiries?
That's what they said at the time, yes.
Did the policeman spend a long time with you on that occasion?
No.
In 2020, did you express surprise to the police that the police had never been in touch with you since that first statement?
Yes.
Have you come here today to tell lies?
No.
Have you committed perjury in this murder trial?
No.
Thank you.
That's your evidence finished. You're free to go.
In order to establish murder, we have to prove that the accused were all part of a plan to attack Caroline Glacken. There is a witness who was walking close to the river at around the time when I suggest the murder was committed, at a time the accused were together as a group. I'd like to ask you about Saturday the 24th of August 1996. In the evening that day, what were you doing?
Went out with her friends, just kind of messed about.
Did the messing about take you to near the River Leven?
Yeah.
What time would you say it would be by the time you got to the path at the River Leven?
Closer to 12 o'clock, Matt, maybe. It was dark anyway, I know that.
It was dark?
Yeah.
As you were walking past, did you hear anything?
Yeah, I heard a scream.
Heard a scream?
Yeah.
Could you tell if it was a male or female?
It's a female.
Were you able to determine from which direction it came?
Yeah, we knew it came from the riverside.
Came from the riverside?
Yeah.
Okay. Was anything said?
Somebody tried to shout, and it sounded to me at the time. I didn't see it or I didn't do it.
Somebody shouted, "I didn't say it," or "I didn't do it."
Yeah, that's just what I picked up for the noise.
Yes. Was that a male or a female voice?
Sounded female.
There was a topic of contention between Caroline and Robbie and Donna. "I didn't say that," or "I didn't do that" may have been Caroline, and that might suggest that comment was made in the context of a confrontation of some kind rather than a stranger attacking Caroline at the time. So that fits in to the Crown theory of what happened.
Cross-examination, Mr. Ross.
Nothing more, thank you. There was no point in any cross-examination because even if the jury did accept that Donna Brand had been there was no real evidence that Donna Brand laid a finger on the deceased. By all means, punish the person who did the bad thing, but don't punish other people just because they were there.
They had in mind what they were going to do. I mean, not one of them stopped it. They all were responsible.
Members of the jury, we will adjourn there till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
The court case, it's been a long time coming, 20 odd years. Sometimes I would think over the years, maybe they're just not going to get who did it.
Police were continuing their search of the murder scene as detectives revealed there had been a disappointing response to pleas for information about the killing.
Over the years, the police I feel they did what they could at the time with what they had at the time. People didn't want to talk to the police, and I found that hard to sit back. I do find myself looking at people and thinking, do you know something, or are you hiding something, you know? And going to the morgue to see her was really hard. I just saw her face. But she lay in that morgue for 6 months. Because they couldn't bury her because circumstances of the investigation. There's no funeral, there's no anything where you can gradually move on. So to me, she was lying in a morgue. She was herself. And that really didn't sit too well, as you can imagine.
Yes, Advocate Depute.
Okay, my lord, the next witness is Donna Talbot. The conduct of an accused in the aftermath of a murder can be highly revealing. In this case, there is evidence that two girls encountered Robbie O'Brien, and on the surface, there's an admission of guilt. Now, that's a very powerful piece of evidence if the jury accept it, because it would give confidence to the circumstantial case which I have outlined. In 1996, you would be at 15, would that be right?
Yes.
Could we put the computer on, please? You'll see two photographs. How did you know Caroline?
She was my best friend for about 2 years. Sorry.
It's all right. Was there an occasion when you met up with some friends and found yourself on the towpath of the River Leven after the body had been found?
That was roughly a week after we just buried Caroline. I went down to lay flowers.
Hundreds of mourners saw the murdered Dunbarton schoolgirl Caroline Glachan finally buried today, 6 months after her brutal death.
But the fact 6 months on there's been no arrest was inevitably not far from people's minds at a packed funeral in St Ronan's Chapel, Bon Hill.
Everybody's shattered. Our family and our pals and all that. Can't explain how everybody's feeling. There's no words to say it.
Everybody feels the same. There should have been somebody brought to justice. We all still hope, but there just doesn't seem to be any sight of it.
Just tell us what happened as you walked along the towpath.
In the middle of the bridge, Julie wanted to stop to write her name on the bridge. I wasn't comfy being down there after what happened to Caroline. So I was kind of trying to rush her. And we heard rustling in the bushes at the renting side. Julie was shouting. I think she could see person's trainers. And she shouted, "Is that you, Robbie?" The next minute, he took a couple of steps out so he could see it was Robert O'Brien. And he had a baseball bat. Julie then shouted, "Robbie, did you hit wee Caroline with that?" Then he hit the bat twice off of the ground and said, "Aye, I fucking did."
Aye, I fucking did. All right, thank you.
The community had been living with an unsolved murder for 27 years, and perhaps they decided We don't want to live with the uncertainty of this. We can change the narrative.
How long did you wait before you decided to tell the police about that?
A long time. I was scared to report it.
So 24 years you waited. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what is the reason for keeping it to yourself for 24 years?
Because Julie had reported it
When?
straight after it happened. The next day, I think it was.
Did you know someone called Robbie O'Brien?
Yes.
And was he someone you would recognise if you saw him?
Yes.
Would you look round the court and tell me if you see him? And if you do, point to him, please. And could you just describe what the person's wearing?
A green jumper.
Green jumper. Do you recall an occasion when you were with Donna Talbot and some friends when you were together on the towpath in the River Leven? Do you remember that?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember being spoken to by the police about this?
Basically, I have read my statement and I cannot remember the incident.
All right, I'd like to look at a statement. Turn to page 5. Does it say this? On Saturday night, along the towpath, I shouted, "Who is it?" I then saw Robbie O'Brien walk out from under the bridge. I could see Robbie was carrying a baseball bat. I shouted to Robbie, "Is that the bat you hit Caroline with?" Does it go on? He said, "Aye, AYE, it is," unquote. Is that what it says in the statement?
Yes.
Did you say that to the police?
I would have done, yes.
Was that the truth?
It would have been, yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Duguid, cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. Miss O'Sullivan, I don't know how this is going to work because you don't have any memory of even the events that have been read out to you. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, so let me ask you a few general questions then. You were a heroin addict in 1996.
Correct.
You're obviously not a heroin addict anymore then.
No, I'm 23 years clean.
Is it fair to say there was a bit of bad feeling in the community towards Robert O'Brien?
Possibly, yeah.
6 months had gone by after Caroline's murder. Nobody had been arrested or charged for it. Is that your understanding?
Well, that's a fact, is it not? Nobody was arrested for it.
Yep. So did you get in touch with Robert O'Brien to arrange to meet him?
No.
Down at the towpath?
No.
What I'm suggesting to you is that you made an arrangement to meet him to set him up, as it were.
No.
So that he got a bit of a doing from some people.
I would never have made an arrangement to meet Robbie O'Brien. He was not a friend. He was just an associate that I knew that took drugs the same as me. There was no way that would have happened.
So you do have a memory then?
You're trying to obviously put words into my mouth. I cannot recall the incident. I've reported it at the time and it would have been the truth. And we were angry. Our friend had just been murdered and there was main suspects in the area.
What I'm suggesting to you is that it wasn't an arrangement to see him. It was an arrangement to assault him. Do you understand?
Of course I understand. We might have hated him at the time, but we weren't stupid. There was justice needing done, not vengeance.
That's a fair enough comment.
Yeah, it is.
23 years later,
Yeah,
though,
it is
isn't
because he came from quite a notorious family also, so we wouldn't have been going anywhere near him.
Well, your observation is you want justice, but I'm suggesting...
Yeah, we want justice through the courts, through the police system. It's not our responsibility to take justice into our own hands and go out and harm somebody. If that was the case, it would have been probably done a long time ago. It's not. People are waiting for justice to be done for Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Ranucci. Cross-examination?
No, thank you, Lord.
Mr Ross?
Nothing, Lord.
Yes, Advocate Depute.
With that, my lord, I close the Crown case.
We'll adjourn till 10:15 tomorrow morning.
It's hard to sit there and listen. Personally, myself, I'm feeling really quite mentally exhausted. And folks say, time's a healer, time's not a healer. There's an emptiness there. It's never going to be filled, ever. And that was my whole reason for doing like television programmes, press conferences. Even if it didn't come to anything, it helped me feel I was doing something to help her. As her mother, I was doing something concrete, something that I was helping, because what else can I do? To be honest, I just would like it all to be done. But I feel I have to be there every day. And I have to look them in the face.
To be clear about it, giving or not giving evidence is always going to be the accused's decision, and you as the lawyers are just advising them to take that decision.
There's an argument for the accused not giving evidence because they can be cross-examined by an experienced lawyer. And that's an uncomfortable situation for any person to be in.
Mr Toogood.
First accused elects to give evidence on his own behalf.
Thank you. Mr O'Brien, if you come into the witness box then, please.
If you come about as shifty, evasive, cheeky, aggressive, any of those things, then the jury might sort of take against you.
Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That I will tell the truth.
That I will tell the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth. My lord, is it okay if I say something before we start?
No, it's not. You just got to answer the questions, Mr O'Brien.
Mr O'Brien, you're Robert O'Brien, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And in August 1996, you had just turned 18.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you start a relationship with Caroline Glacken?
Yes.
Okay. How long before her death, do you think?
A month and a half, maybe.
And when I say a relationship, what was the nature of your relationship with her?
We were sleeping with one another.
And where did that happen?
Man to Dorothy's house, we actually done it up closes and things like that, anywhere we could find, basically. It was like friends with benefits. She knew I was in a relationship, she told me she was in a relationship.
Did you have any arrangement to see her on Saturday night?
No, I did not.
So we're talking about Saturday the 24th of August, do you understand?
Yes.
Did you know you were going to stay at Allen Crescent?
Well, I think we knew Sarah Jane and Andy were babysitting, but it was basically at the last minute we decided to stay there.
Okay, so we is yourself and Donna Brand.
Me
is that right?
Yes.
For the duration of the night, what did you do in the house?
I can remember Donna bathing the veins because he had soiled himself, and then me and Donna went in the room, done what we were doing, and then we got up and Andy and Sarah Jane ended up leaving and getting into the room, and we stayed in the living room on the couch.
Were there any arguments going on?
Sarah Jane and Andy used to argue a lot.
Did the carpet get wet?
Yes. It was a pint tumbler of water, and I must have kicked it out about 3, maybe 4 times.
Did you leave the house that night?
No, I did not.
Now, you'll have heard the evidence in this case.
Yes.
And certainly the evidence from Caroline Glacken's best friend about how she was going to meet you.
Yes.
You understand? Did you see her later that night?
No.
Did you see her down at the river?
No, I did not.
Did you kill her?
No, I did not.
Thank you. Thank you. Advocate Depute, cross-examination.
Essentially, my task is to undermine his evidence and to illustrate to the jury that he should not be relied upon. But if the jury believe him when he says he was not present at the time Caroline died, then they will acquit him. Mr. O'Brien, you were 18 when you went out with Caroline.
Yes.
Sorry, let's not speak over each other.
Oh.
You were 18 when you went out with Caroline Glacken, who was 14, is that correct?
Yes.
You would realise, Mr. O'Brien, as an 18-year-old, that it really wasn't appropriate for you to go out with a 14-year-old schoolgirl. You would realise that, yes?
But back then, I didn't have the best of teachers myself.
Could you answer my question? You would realise it was not appropriate for you to go out with a 14-year-old schoolgirl.
At first, I didn't know she was 14-year-old when we first met.
But you did know later.
Yes, I did know later, yes.
So you knew she was 14 when you had sex with her, yes?
Yes.
And you would know that was wholly inappropriate, yes?
Well, back then, as I said, I wasn't fully developed back then myself, so I wasn't thinking like that. Now, when I got a bit older and thought about it, yes.
So
totally.
Would you agree you were a controlling bully towards Caroline?
No, I was not.
Because you struck her?
No, I did not.
You hit her?
No, I did not.
And you were going out with Donna at the time?
Yes.
So you were seeing 2 girls at once?
I was seeing about 5.
You were seeing 5 girls at once?
Maybe, aye.
Right. And was that a great boost to your ego?
No, really, no.
Was Donna jealous of you going out with other girls?
I don't know. The subject was never approached.
Now, in the apartment where you were with Donna, Sarah Jane and Andy, just tell us again about the pint tumblers getting kicked over.
Well, when you have a drink, you kind of hit a drooth, a dry mouth. So I filled a tumbler with water to get drinks in it. Took a drink, put it down, spilt it. I must have 3-4 times.
You knocked it over 3 or 4 times?
Yes.
The same pint tumbler?
Yes.
Did you not learn from the first occasion to watch out for it?
Obviously not.
Were your joggers damp?
No, they were not.
Could you turn to page 214, please? So that's the transcript you have. You were asked, why would Archie say you were soaking? And you answered, I don't know, maybe the bottom of my joggers were wet but not soaking. Did you say that?
It could have been wet when we knocking over the water.
Your trousers were wet because you'd been at the River Leven, inflicting
a
brutal attack on Caroline Glacken. Is that not true?
No, yes, it's not true.
Because that's what you did. You went down to the Leven to meet Caroline with your companions, didn't you?
No, I did not.
What was the argument about?
There was never any argument. I don't know what argument you're talking about.
Did Caroline say anything at the Leven?
We didn't see Caroline at the Leven. We weren't at the Leven.
Why was it necessary to inflict such awful violence on Caroline Glacken?
I did not do any violence to Caroline Glacken.
Why was she left face down in the water?
I have not got a clue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Just go back into the dock, please.
I feel physically sick looking at him. And he is arrogant, thinks a lot of himself. And I think that was probably why he went up and gave evidence, because it's quite a risky thing to do. And I think it was just his arrogance.
Short adjournment.
Court! And to hear Robbie O'Brien to admit that she was a friend with benefits, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. That took me all my time to keep my seat. And he said he wasn't developed. I mean, what does that mean? You still know you're 18 and you're not supposed to have sex with a 14-year-old. Caroline looked every bit her age, 14, and acted even less than 14. But that's hard to listen to and no have been able to say to him, how dare you? And I hope the jury could see him for what he is.
Mr. Duguid, your next witness is...
Yes, my next witness is Dr. Kirsty Scott. Dr. Scott had been engaged by the prosecution to report on water staining on a carpet and some clothing. Immediately you're thinking, well, why would the prosecution not be running with that evidence? But it wasn't a piece of evidence that was going to be entirely favourable to the prosecution's case.
That report is no longer part of the Crown case, but we have to disclose that information to the defence, which we did.
Dr. Scott, your expertise is in analysing diatoms.
Yes, diatoms are microscopic algae that we typically find in water bodies. So we can find them in lakes and in rivers and in coastlines.
Are there diatoms in tap water?
Typically in the UK, we don't find diatoms in tap water.
In 2020, you were contacted by the Major Crime Investigation Unit of Police Scotland.
Yes.
And I think on the back of that, you produced a report. It states, I was initially requested to analyse household carpet samples and the victim's submerged clothing to determine whether diatoms were present in either examples. Is that correct?
Yes.
You summarise your conclusion as saying, briefly, no diatoms were identified in the carpet samples. However, an abundant and species-rich diatom profile was recovered from the victim's clothing. Is that correct?
Yes, nothing to suggest that there was any freshwater link with that carpet.
There was a further request to analyse additional footwear and clothing items retrieved from each of the 4 suspects in 1996.
No diatoms were identified in any of the samples examined.
So no diatoms or other freshwater indicators were identified throughout?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
The soaking patch in the carpet could be very significant in this case. I could see a powerful argument being made to the jury.
Advocate Depute.
I have to deal with this because it could be perceived as a serious weakness in the Crown case and a significant advantage for the defence.
Dr. Scott, the victim, who we know as Caroline Glachan, diatoms were found in abundance on her clothing. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Now, we have heard evidence that would suggest that she was immersed in the water for a period of about 16 hours. But could it be the case that you could step into the water and out again and not collect diatoms?
I suppose it's possible.
You told us about the carpet and you didn't find any diatoms present on the areas that you sampled.
Yes, based on my assessment of that carpet, I could exclude it from having any diatoms on it that might link it to the River Leven.
Well, you say exclude. Are you not really just saying you found no link with fresh water?
Yes, that's appropriate, yes.
So in other words, you found no link with fresh water, but that does not mean that it was not river water. Would that be correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
I felt there was some importance in that for the jury because all she can really say is that diatoms were not present. That does not necessarily mean that this was not River Leven water.
Yes, Mr. Duguid.
If I could call the witness Caroline Walker on the defence list.
Caroline Walker.
As far as Mr. O'Brien is concerned, he maintains he wasn't at the location when the crime was committed and that another person was or is a suspect.
In 1996, and I'm asking about Saturday, the 24th of August, 1996, were you in your partner's car?
Yes.
Did the police come to ask you about what you were doing that particular night?
Yeah, I think what had happened was his car was seen on sort of CCTV
And what was the information that you gave them?
Well, when it had come out, and obviously it said that there were two chaps had ran up Bank Street and past the Kitten Dairy, I happened to know who they were.
Were they running in a direction away from the River Leven and the Black Bridge as well?
Mm-hmm.
Can you be exact about the time when you observed this or not?
It was 10 to 1 in the morning.
So, who were they?
One was George Graham, and I thought maybe he's been up to no good.
And do you know who the other one was?
I don't know his name.
George Graham was someone that Caroline knew, and it's undoubted that he was out and about that night and may well have been up to no good, but I suggest not for the purpose of murder.
The police had recovered information from other witnesses who could explain how he could have been involved.
The defence do not have to prove that George Graham was responsible. All they need to do is cause a reasonable doubt on the Crown case.
Two of the witnesses are now deceased, but their evidence will be admissible through police officers reading out their statements.
So what I want you to do is to read out what is recorded on this young girl's behalf.
I'm 16 years old and been using heroin for about 3 years. George Graham is my cousin. It was just the two of us in the house. We were watching the telly, tooting smack. We were in the front room just talking, and then George brought up the subject of Caroline. He said, "Who do you think it was that done it, hen?" I said, "Put it this way, George, near enough the whole of the Vale and half of Dumbarton think it was you that done it." He then paused for a couple of seconds. Then he looked me straight in the eye and said, quote, "But it was me," close quote.
The incrimination evidence, if it goes as far as presenting a reasonable doubt in the identification of Mr. O'Brien as the perpetrator of the murder, then that's the purpose it is intended to serve.
So I want you to read this document to the ladies and gentlemen here.
The statement is about the murder of Caroline Glachan. Around Christmas 1996, George came round to my house. We started talking and George said he had been in for questioning again. I said to him, "How many times is that you have been in?" And he said, 4. And I then asked him outright, straight to his face, "George, did you kill that Wayne?" He turned and looked at me and said, "What do you think? I killed her, Auntie Mary." And I said, "I didn't know, did he?" He said, "Aye, but it wasn't meant to happen." He told me that he had hit her with a baseball bat, with nails in it, held her head under the water. He told me the name of the other guy that was there, but I can't remember it. I am not lying. When George told me this, I said he was a fucking nutter, and I threw him out of the house. I have not discussed the murder with him since.
Thank you very much.
That is the conclusion of the case for the first accused.
Thank you.
I can well understand why the defence advanced this line of defence, but there are some issues with all of these strands of evidence in terms of reliability. One witness talked about George Graham using a bat with nails in it. Well, there's no injuries that would support that. So my approach to this is to point to the positive case that I have and invite the jury to believe that and disregard the evidence which tends to implicate George Graham.
Mr. Ranucci, do you need time to consider your position?
I don't, my Lord. I can advise the court now. I do not propose to lead any evidence on behalf of Andrew Kelly.
And Mr. Ross, the same question.
My Lord, I have taken the decision not to lead evidence on behalf of Donna Marie Brand.
I'll now adjourn until Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
Whether or not an individual accused gives evidence in any trial, it very much depends on how the evidence has come out, how strong or how weak the Crown case is.
Court!
There are situations where it doesn't really make any sense, and this is one of them, because unless the accused has something to add to the account which she gave in 1996, then it makes no sense to get involved in it.
I think the Crown case is really quite solid when it's looked at in its entirety, and invite the jury to convict all three accused of murder.
Thank you, Advocate Depute.
May it please the court. There is one charge before you. That is the charge of murder. Murder can be committed in one of two ways. One is the wickedly intentional killing, but murder can also be committed where the person displays such a wicked recklessness as to display a disregard for whether the victim lived or died. Now, I don't suggest that the three accused plotted to murder Caroline Glacken, but I do suggest there may have been a limited plan for a simple assault which escalated to a murderous one, and that all three accused participated in that. You have to be prepared to accept.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is about whether the prosecution has proved its case against Robert O'Brien. He might have been a drug taker and somebody who was morally terrible with the women he associated with. All of that is conceded.
The earlier evidence of violence by Robert O'Brien towards Caroline gives you an inkling into the nature of this relationship.
But this is a case where there is an incrimination of George Graham. He was out that night. He was running with another male. He was running from the direction of the bridge. Do you simply decide that George Graham's confessions to two of his relatives is worth nothing? Is that what reasonable doubt amounts to?
The Crown position to you is that Robert O'Brien attacked Caroline with a blunt instrument, causing her to fall into the water and drown, and that consequently he is guilty of murder and nothing less. The Crown position regarding Andrew Kelly and Donna Brand is that they are guilty of murder because of the targeted nature of the attack. A set-up meeting was arranged in the dark. There is evidence from Archie that an implement was taken from the apartment and returned to the apartment. And since Archie saw the weapon, you can conclude that the others saw it as well. They were together.
This is not a case of it's all or nothing. If one of them's guilty, they're all guilty. That is not the case at all. And so it's important that when you come to consider the case against Andrew Kelly, it's important you remember he's in a different position and the evidence against him is not quite the same.
You have the evidence from Archie that Andrew Kelly threw boulders at Caroline. Leaving her is also relevant to the case against all three accused. Nobody went to help her. She was face down in the river.
There was no allegation against him that he threatened Caroline or had any form of a grudge against her whatsoever.
The Crown never has to prove a motive, but you have the evidence. Donna Brand said that she wasn't happy about Caroline seeing Robbie and she was going to batter her.
Preposterous. A 17-year-old girl allegedly saying that she was going to batter another girl who was seeing her boyfriend. And it was reasonable to interpret that as an intention to kill somebody. And after 27 years of an investigation, that's the best that the most experienced prosecutor in the country can offer you.
Now, I would submit to you that the doubts in this case are numerous. Remembering always that before you can convict Andrew Kelly of anything, you would have to first accept the evidence of 5-year-old Archie, and you would have to find him a credible and reliable witness.
He's a 5-year-old boy. How would he know about the head injuries? Is he recounting a lived experience? And I suggest that he is.
Here we are, 27 years after the event, and there is no new witnesses. There is no new fingerprint, DNA, scientific type of evidence.
You, members of the jury, have a very, very important role because you are the masters of the fact. You are, in effect, judges. You heard the evidence, and it's your recollection which counts.
I thank you for your attention.
So, members of the jury, you've now heard all the evidence. You should put any prejudices you might have or moral disapproval of anyone's behaviour or lifestyle to one side. If the evidence leaves you with a reasonable doubt of the guilt of an accused, you must acquit that accused. You can return your verdict at any time, but you must not rush to judgment. So with that, members of the jury, will you now please retire and consider your verdict? Thank you.
Right now, the jury are probing, testing, comparing the evidence, and the issues are not straightforward, especially when there are 3 accused.
It's difficult because there might be a gap between what the public consider joint responsibility compared to what the law books say about it.
Welcome back. I'm told, not surprisingly, you need more time, so I'm going to just direct you to stop your deliberations for the day. Good morning, members of the jury. As I said yesterday, you can have as long as you need to reach your verdict, so you're under absolutely no pressure or time whatsoever.
Murder is the most serious charge that anyone can face, and it has got very serious repercussions, not only for the accused, but also for the deceased's family.
So it's important that decisions are not swayed by prejudices towards one side, sympathies for the other.
It could be anything that's holding them. They might be having difficulty with Donna Brand and Andy Kelly as to what their participation was.
It's not enough that at some level you might be morally culpable because there's a girl in the river and you don't do anything to help her. The jury need to be satisfied that there's evidence that proves that they participated.
I understand that you've not reached your verdict yet, so I'll direct you to come back tomorrow.
I'm absolutely terrified. All these years, these 27 years, to get this far and then have nothing come at the end yet. That would be the end of me. I really feel that.
The trial here at the High Court in Glasgow continues.
Good morning again.
Morning.
Again, just checking that you're all here, present and correct. Once again, will you please resume your deliberations?
We all have to just be available because the announcement could be any time.
Could the maintenance engineer please contact reception? That's the maintenance engineer, please contact.
It's quite harrowing just to sit, and every time that bell goes, you're thinking, is this it? I've never been so scared or needed something so much in all my life.
In the High Court of Justiciary, in Court Number 5, verdict in the case of His Majesty's Advocate against Robert O'Brien, Andrew Kelly and Donna Marie Brand. Verdict in Court Number 5.
Despite doing this for a very long time, you never lose that anxiousness which comes with the delivery of a verdict. I can't imagine how Caroline's mum and her dad are feeling right now.
If you look at what my client is proved to have done, it doesn't justify a conviction. In fact, on the evidence, there's an argument for them all to be acquitted.
I understand you have a verdict.
Members of the jury, would your spokesperson please stand? Have the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
What is your verdict in respect of the first named accused, Robert O'Brien?
Guilty.
Is that unanimous or by a majority?
Unanimous.
What is your verdict in respect of the second named accused, Andrew Kelly?
Guilty of murder.
Is that unanimous or by a majority?
Unanimous.
And what is your verdict in respect to the third named accused, Donna Marie Brand?
Guilty of murder.
Is that unanimous or by a majority?
Unanimous.
You all stand up, please. You've all been convicted of what can only be described as a brutal, depraved, and above all, wicked murder. While there is only one sentence which can be imposed in this case, I do propose to obtain criminal justice social work reports on all three of you so that I have the fullest possible information before passing sentence. Well, my last function, members of the jury, is to thank you all for serving as jurors. By definition, of course, since you are the judges of the fact, the verdict that you've reached is the correct one. But I can now discharge you for the last time. You go back to your jury room and then your normal lives.
I'm sorry we had to meet in these circumstances, but I hope the verdict gives you some sense of justice. It won't diminish the loss. I understand that.
Couldn't have asked for a better verdict, really. I will love this man forever.
Hi. If you just bear with me a wee bit. This has been a great day. I just can't sum up how I feel. It'll not bring her back, but at least I know that who was responsible is serving time for it. Because for the past 25 years they've lived their life and they've had their Christmases and their birthdays. And my Caroline was in the ground, so this is a day that we never thought we would see. And now I think Caroline can rest in peace.
My mum, like everybody just knew her for being happy and funny and Everybody's got a story with my mum, like something funny that's happened. And I don't know what it was, but she just always had a way of making you feel good about yourself. Like, whenever you saw her, you just always left her feeling happier than what you were. I think she had that impact on a lot of folk. So she went missing and stuff, it's just been a big, like, the best way to describe it's like a cloud of smoke. Like, I don't want to ever think that it's happening and it's real.
Morning, folks. Lots of familiar faces in this room, which gives me the absolute confidence that we'll deal with what we're actually going to deal with here. And this is what we're actually going to deal with. Missing person, Julie Riley. And the bottom line is there's suspicious circumstances as to her currently being missing. Our number one priority is, if at all possible, the safe recovery of Julie. Find where she is and attend to any needs that she may have. So, what could have happened to Julie? Well, she could have voluntarily absented herself for her friends and family for whatever reason, we don't know. She may have come to substantial harm or death at the hand of an as yet unknown person. We can't discount that she's been held against her will, unknown location for an unknown reason. If she has come to substantial harm or death, then why has that occurred? Has she been murdered? Potentially she could have self-harmed and she's in a place where we just can't find her. Stevie, give us a wee bit of background just about Julie, will you, please?
Julie is a 47-year-old female who lives alone. She's originally from Ayrshire. She suffers from a hypoxic brain injury where she was in hospital for 5 months.
Over the period of her life, she goes for periods without speaking to the family, but she always then gets back in touch.
Have you ever seen the woman before? No, yeah, that's fine, bud.
The 6th of February is a very significant date. It's the last day she used her bus pass.
She's never been reported missing before, albeit she's went long periods of time, but she's always come back or there's always been some kind of contact.
The purpose of today is to try and engage with the local community, gather information. I'm looking at Julie's background, I'm looking at how, as you would expect, how someone lives their life. There is nothing that I'm aware of that would lead Julie to suddenly flee or leave the area. I moved to Major Investigations in 2011. And at the start of it, when I was probably younger in service, a lot of it was around the thrill of the chase and getting that 10 seconds of energy when you've got that key piece of information that you know that that's the bit that proves this case. And probably, if you're honest, as you become more mature in the job, it's a difference that you can actually make to the victims' families in their darkest moments.
How's things been the last couple of days?
Just weird, too long.
It's getting longer, isn't it?
Bad. She's been upset this morning.
Yeah. Is it just the length of time that's worrying you a wee bit just now, is it?
I think so, aye. And I think so, but if she's not alright, how's she not been fun? That's my question, my thing now is, but if she's not alright, she would have been fun by now. Look who's all trying to fin her, look who's all the police and nobody can fin her, and that's what makes me hope so much she's alright. That's my wee clinch to hang on to. Oh, sorry.
No, don't be daft, Lynn. How have you been, Margaret?
Not bad. My power of strength this moment.
The two of you bounce off each other well, but you do. If one of you is struggling, the other one's there. And staying so close together is a godsend at times like this. I mean, you're just across the road.
I just wish that she could be found one way or another. That's the position I'm in.
We're the same, and our whole inquiry is focused on that. Is finding Julie, finding out why she's missing.
Aye.
For whatever reason it may be. But,
I think is she lying somewhere? Is she away abroad? I think none of these things. It's a million and one things every single day, and they're different every single day.
It's hard because you're wanting answers and you're waiting for answers, and I know every time I'm phoning you, your heart's going to skip a beat.
Aye. It is, and it's another week, but then that's I also keep thinking to myself, well, she's not been fun. They would have fun in Benue, the dogs, the helicopter, the divers, somebody would definitely have fun in Benue. So she might be alright.
It's a nice picture.
It is. I gave it that wee scarf.
Diary, it's dated 2017. First thing is mum's phone number, take that as it's mum.
Tuesday the 25th, due ESA. Yep. £235. 30th of January, which is Monday. Crisis Centre. Put on 30 mil. CAT team. Got put up to 40 mil.
My mum was quite ill. She was in rehab and she was in hospital for months.
And the entry for Sunday the 7th of May says Crisis Centre.
It was when she hadn't been to appointments and stuff. That's when I was like, I just knew something was up. Like, she would always go. She had a routine. She had to always do what she was supposed to be doing. She just always did. And it was weird that she wasn't going to the appointments, and I just thought maybe she'd met a guy and he was in trouble or something and she'd run away with him because she would do that kind of stuff. Like, and she was daft.
More notably, Saturday the 28th, Mum coming. What's what you're doing with your something? Money? What's what you're doing with your money?
Grab a seat.
Oh, thank you very much.
Turn the rubber.
When you look through the diary, the things that we're seeing all the time, it confirms that she keeps a diary of everything, her ESA, her DLA, that's in there weekly. Her CAT team appointments are in there every week, her doctor's appointments, and then her diary is of what she does on a daily basis.
Everything's put in, just to remind her, obviously probably because of her brain injury.
It sounds it then, would you agree that she's almost trying to relearn
Yep.
how to do some of the basic things?
You're getting warnings to remind myself to do something, and then you're getting the actual date, the 11th of June, you're getting the fact that it is her mum's birthday. It certainly corroborates the fact that she's family orientated.
The bottom line is we can answer the question that There's nothing in the diary that would cause us concern that, or show a plan for her to disappear.
No, absolutely not. 100% not. None at all.
Okay.
So we're just going to be going to a house at Shield Hall Road. This is the house of a missing person, and we're going to do a forensic examination on it. We need to build up a picture of why she's missing and how she's missing. Maybe trying to establish if there has been any violence in the house. We need to get in there and make sure that there's nothing untoward. For me today, my kind of mission at the moment would be to identify any potential blood or what have you, and to get this place all photographed and get that done, and then tomorrow come up with a plan.
Okay.
In a missing persons case, you're looking to go and see what you can find that might have shown that they've been injured there. Is there any blood patterns that show there's been any kind of assault? In that house, I was on my hands and knees looking for any blood staining, and I couldn't see anything at all. But as you started to look closer, I noticed some dropped blood spots, which were dilute. But it was all very disjointed, and it wasn't very obvious if anything had happened here.
Hayley has identified around the drum of the washing machine blood. But we're going to concentrate on there, and there's a wee kind of congregated bit of blood here. I'm going to need the biologist to do all the source lighting, which will give us a better idea of what we're looking at. Aye, definitely. So, all right, thanks a lot, Ali. Cheers, bye, bye. There's only a kind of small amounts of dilute blood down there. So at this stage it's really, really difficult to even interpret, what's happened there. But we'll get a plan, we'll get a forensic strategy meeting, we'll get our specialists in and see how we're going to progress this. Because at this point, we couldn't say that there's been an act of violence within the house just now.
I got a phone call from a hospital in Glasgow and just said that Julie never turned up for an appointment today. And at that point, I never thought much of it because I thought there'll be a phone call saying they've got her.
In a couple of days,
that's
and that
what
was
I
my
thought,
genuine thing.
Because that
was
was
just Julie.
character or no
That was just Julie. So it was.
That was Julie, no phoning me, but she would eventually, you just left the phone, it would be her.
Aye, Mum. Quite the thing as
As if
she'd been on the
nothing
phone
had
the day
happened.
before.
Ken, that's what
Aye.
Julie was like.
Yeah.
The last phone call I got for Julie, she told me that she was moving somebody in, a lodger in. She's thinking of moving this lodger in, and I disagreed with it. I said it was wrong, wasn't for her. But she said, he comes from Pennylee, I know him, he's okay. And I said, I think it's all wrong and that you don't need this. And she says, I'm not going with him. I said, the new. That's the answer again. And she says, it could be my carer. And I thought, oh no, this is getting worse. And she hung up because I disagreed.
Right.
And that's
And
the last
time
time
she spoke to you. You're waking up in the morning and you open your eyes, it's normal and everything's alright and that, and then the reality hits you a hard punch right in the side of the head. Basically it does. Everything you thought about the day before runs through your head before the new stuff for this day starts running through your head, and what have I no thought about, as if that could be the answer to it. I'm alright if one car door shuts. If I hear two car doors shutting, that's when I got up to the window and look out the window.
My mum constantly in her head is going back to the last chat. Julie had been in and out of relationships all her life, and I think her mum had thought that she'd maybe just getting herself back on track. And mum's eyes off the drugs, you know, the best she's ever been, engaging with the family again, the grandson. And then the phone call about the lodger, then that's that contact stopped. And there's been nothing since then. I think they're always going to have the question of what if I'd maybe went to see her? That's what's really got them.
Morning, folks. Okay, so around the turn of the year, and I don't have anything more specific than that, it is around the turn of the year, Julie becomes involved in a relationship with a male by the name of Andrew Wallace.
What's the
Last confirmed sighting.
Aldi, Paisley Road West. She's with Boy Wallace.
On the 6th of February, which is the last known sighting, Andrew Wallace sends a text stating that he's going to carry out some form of scam on Julie on the QT LOL. So he's preparing some form of scam on the day that she goes missing.
Same here. This is the boy Andrew Wallace, who was living with the missing person at the time. So this is the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, and uses her card to buy stuff. It could be a top-up for a phone, I don't know. This is Aldi, Paisley Road West. So that's her card, it's a fraudulent transaction he's doing, buying his stuff. So you see him, he just skims it. He's only buying up to a certain amount, so he doesn't have a pin in.
He's interviewed in relation to the frauds, and he makes a no-comment interview. It's a very short interview. Andrew Wallace yesterday appeared on petition at Glasgow Sheriff Court and is remanded in custody in relation to a number of frauds. And we've got a short period of time, as you know, to work around what we've physically got. Key time frame is essentially between the 6th of February and up to the 10th of February. Between that time frame, Andrew Wallace attends at another male's home address, and he's got scratches to the side of his face and his hands, and he's covered in blood. He provides an explanation that he was near to a roundabout on Govan Road, and that he was hit by a truck, hit by the wing mirror of a truck, and he rolled along the side of the truck. But he goes into the bathroom and he washes the blood off himself, his hands. When he looks at him after he's cleaned up, he's got scratches on his face and on his hands. So that's the situation we're faced with right now. We need to basically find her alive or prove that she's dead. One of the two. Mr Wallace is in custody in relation to fraud charges concerning the use of Julie's bank cards. For me, it started the clock ticking. I have to look very carefully at the decisions I'm going to make in relation to Mr Wallace. There's risk, and that risk is to the public by not getting sufficiency of evidence in the right timescales and potentially releasing an individual into the community that you've got concerns about. On first look in that property, it's not obviously a murder scene. I've got some drops of blood which are Julie's. It looks to be smeared, potentially cleaned. For me, that concerns me, and that means that we need to do further significant work at that scene to ascertain what's happened in there.
What number is this? Number 5 for carpet sample 2.
But what we might need to do is, oh, right, heavy staining there. That shows you the amount of blood that must have been on there. Right, freeze, okay? Just going to suspend it just now because we've obviously got blood seeping through the carpet onto the floor, underneath the carpets. Basically, we've lifted part of the carpet from the living room, and it's soaked with blood underneath. The blood seeped all the way through, quite a lot of it, so I'm going to grid the living room and lift all the carpets. All right, no worries. All right, I'll catch you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye. Just spoke with the SIO there, just informing them of what we found there, so we're going to continue and try and... We're going to have to lift all the carpets in this house. These are going to go up to Gartcosh, the mark enhancement lab. There'll be a camera directly above, and they'll do the luminol procedure, which will give us a better idea of what we're looking at. So a very interesting development, not one that I was expecting, but nonetheless, we will deal with it.
Luminol is a chemical that is used normally for detecting trace amounts of blood or dilute blood. It's very useful in scenes where there is a suggestion that blood has been cleaned up. It reacts with the haemoglobin in your blood. This gives off a reaction in light, so we do it in darkness. We spray an area, and if there's blood staining present, you'll see a very typical blue-white glow.
Okay, so are we ready?
Yep. Just get our eyes adjust a little second. Okay, we'll start now. The initial results for the luminol was quite shocking, actually. I don't think we expected it. Here's the guns. So there's the footprint there. Do you see that in the middle, everyone? Where the toes are? You could see someone must have walked around with blood on their feet. It really just showed the extent of how much blood was actually there. I think they look like drag marks to me.
I think probably the best place to start is just look at the luminol pictures. So, hallway. Pretty powerful stuff. That's all areas of blood. I've never seen anything like this. Bathroom. Okay, it just gets worse. That one, I think it tells you a story, eh? I think we're as confident as we'll ever really be as to what's actually happened in that location. from here on, Andrew Wallace is now a suspect for murder. We need to have in the back of our minds, we need to nail this on the person who's done this, all right? Because that's as bad as I've seen.
The priorities are, I want to lift the tiles in the bathroom first before we take the bath out. I want to get the side panel off today. Let's have a look at what's under the bath. So we've got to look at there'll be continuous water getting in there. So how far would any potential blood, matter, bone, it could go all the way out. And the wash machine will be the waste pipe. And I really want to have a real good look in that drum. She's met her death in there. And she must have been brutalised in there, that amount of blood.
Police said yesterday they were treating 47-year-old Miss Riley from Govan's death as murder. They were appealing for information about 2 suitcases they say may contain evidence about what happened.
In relation to the suitcase, a witness tells us that Mr. Wallace comes into his house and he's hauling a large suitcase into the flat. And he asks him, what's in the suitcase? And he says to him, it's a deer. I was out in a car with another named person and we hit a deer. So we butchered the deer and the contents of the deer is in the suitcase. My job is to explore that.
My mum was quite ill with like drugs and stuff, so my gran adopted me. Since then I don't really ever remember like being with my mum, it was always my gran. I've just grew up with my gran, that's what I feel. But she would always phone. She would try and be somebody else. And I would talk to my mum behind my gran's back and for weeks and then be like, I'm sorry Gran, I've been talking to my mum. And that happened a few times because I was always the one that was like, would forgive her for everything. I would always just be like, no, she's my mum, I'm not caring if she's not spoke to me. But then when I had Jax, I felt like my view on it all changed because when you've got your own way and you think, how can anybody do that? And for a bit I did just resent her. Because I thought I've always just forgave you, I've never really understood it from a mum's point of view. So I think I was quite cold with her the past year or so of her life. I felt off. I wish I never felt like that. I feel like I don't feel as if I've missed out like I have obviously, but I feel so much worse for her. Like she deserved some normality in life. To be able to go on days out with her grandson and her daughter and stuff, she deserved that. She made big changes. You just want somebody to, you want a phone call to say like, this is wrong, we're wrong.
Right, folks, before I go on any further, can I just introduce two gentlemen who have very kindly come from the National Crime Agency up here to assist us in our inquiry. These are the most difficult cases. To be clear, since 2000 in Police Scotland there have only been 4 no-body murders, so we're in pretty elevated territory with the inquiry we're working on, so we'll take every bit of advice that we can. Just really want to take 20 minutes to go over the CV photographs with yourself. So I mean, look at that. I think that is that. I don't actually think there's a more powerful photograph. This is all blood here, and we can obviously see it on the floor there as well. So am I right in saying essentially what we're looking at is scratch marks in the bath?
Yeah, there was quite a lot of damage along the bath.
You see the horizontal scores. It looks to me that a possible attack site could be the living room, but finally went to the bathroom.
When you know it's going to get really messy, and it was the easiest place to clear up
The
was
bathroom.
the bathroom.
Yeah, I think given the marks that are on the bath, which could substantiate if she's been dismembered, the smaller parts, bigger parts, it could be anything.
One thing we found from experience is that offenders, when they're faced with the dismemberment aspect, they don't appreciate just how difficult it's going to be to do that.
But if that's taken place, then it's either taken place because it's easy for disposal, or there's an issue around identification.
Quite horrific stuff to go around with a body in a suitcase, or parts in a suitcase, or blood-stained articles in a suitcase. For me, the key, and the key for your work right now is find me that suitcase.
At the moment, I think we're building 2 scenarios that the disposal is all in one place and one large part of the body. Maybe the head and hands cut off, identification aspects, or whether we're looking at quite a number of small sites, and yeah.
It's horrendous. So this area is what we would call Govan.
Our suspect, is he born and bred round here?
He certainly he's been in this area for a while.
For a few years.
For a few years, yeah, and his lifestyle, unfortunately, is drug dealing, so you'll know this area. But you could argue that it wouldn't be the most unnatural thing to see somebody walking down the road with a suitcase. There was an initial cell site assessment done that brought the officers down to this location. So it's an enormous area. So there's lots of kind of open stanks and culverts and things in this sort of area. That is the nearest point of relief, really, isn't it? If he's coming down here and he wants to get rid of that thing, that's the obvious point to go and do it. If you're going to put it in the water. It's amazing how many desolate areas there are in the urban areas. You start to go, you could hide something anywhere, couldn't you?
He says roughly 1 week before Drew is in the flat with the suitcase. They leave the flat, and as they open the front door to his flat, which is on the 2nd floor, Drew Wallace is there. Hasn't heard them chapping, but Drew Wallace is just standing there. Apparently they don't speak. Going down the common close, they get to the front door of the common close. Drew Wallace says, "I've murdered a cunt." first thoughts are, why is he telling me this? I don't really know this guy that well. His phrase is, what the fuck's it got to do with me? The next thing that Drew Wallace says is something close to, I need to get rid of a body. He says he might have been trying to get me to help dispose of a body, but he wasn't sure if he was serious and he absolutely didn't want anything to do with it, so they walked away. He said he was stressed, dishevelled, not his self-confident self.
Just going to just go over with the verbals again.
So, verbal 1, I've murdered a cunt. The next verbal is something close to, I need to get rid of a body.
He remains a witness. He's told us what he's told us. It's satisfying from an investigative point of view, but you're right now, the only thing you think about is the family. That's the only thing you think about. It's not a sense of euphoria, it's just the family. You know, you've got, at some point in time, we're going to need to go and tell them what we know, so that's the thing that's right at the front of your mind right now.
I'll keep all these. I used to look at them every day. I ken it's all, most of the things you hear in the papers is all rubbish. But unfortunately, I had to read the rubbish. There she is, front page with the prints. It's a great picture too. And she was just so vulnerable. She would have opened her arms, it wouldn't have mattered who you sent up there and chapped her door. If somebody chapped her door and says, "Hi Julie, I'm here to be your pal and care for you and love you," she would just have done that and put her wee arms out, and which anybody in her wee situation would have seen. The not knowing that is frying my brain. The things I've put in my head that's happened to her. It can't be that bad, it can't be that bad. But it can be. I got it. There she is. There we are. Does it feel real? Miss her bad. So bad, so do. That wee face. How could you possibly do that to somebody? I'll miss her all the time, so I will. God love her.
You've plotted the cell IDs for these calls and it's come back with these locations. Well, essentially what we've got is a record of the telephone's movements between certain times. So if that text message is going, it should be over there. The phones generally tell a story because we know that there's a suitcase goes to a witness's flat on the 11th of February. But we also know that he travels to an area that's previously unseen in the inquiry on 2 occasions, Paisley Road West. So essentially what we're able to say is that at one point in time, the suitcase is put in the boot of a car, it's taken to the area of my triangle, and we don't see the suitcase ever again. It's an area of shops, there are gardens, there are bins, there's lots of things there that would be of real concern for me.
You just want to start down that side, and I'll get them to start the next seat and the next one. Just in case there's anything underneath that. Okay, quite happy with that. We're looking for a tan leather colour suitcase and a Royal Navy blue suitcase is what we're actually looking for just now. And as you can see from the area around here, there's all sorts of stuff discarded in the back courts, from furniture, mattresses, and the search team actually have found 2 black suitcases disposed of and a couple of under the stairs cupboards as well. This is the first sector of what we have looked at in an initial 5 sectors, so there's every possibility that as the search progresses, yeah, we could find what we're actually looking for.
This is my wee book I have used since my sister went missing. I like to keep all my wee notes in it, but I also like to write my sister a wee letter every morning, and my niece. Julie's daughter, we lost her to caught death in 1993. But I like to write them both a wee letter every morning, and then I know I've said to them just exactly what I need to say to them. Not a good day yesterday for me, honey. I just can't get my head around the fact I won't see you again. So unfair. What you had to suffer at the hands of that thing. Mum's wee living room's nearly done. Just the carpet this morning and her unit hopefully built. How have you been since you left us, Hen? Is it better being with your angel daughter and all those other angels? I'm trying so hard to make life be normal, but how can we do that if that thing, who I don't have a name for, won't let us have you, Angel, so we can lay you to rest? How can we not find these suitcases as well, Hen? He knows. So why can't he tell where they are? It could be the closure that could help us, and so much, Mum, too, Hen. We just want to lay you to rest, so please, all my angels and their friends, please help us so you can be at peace with your wee angel girl. I'll speak to you both soon. Keep smiling and shining bright, my diamonds. I love you both so much.
It's obviously my opinion, but this suitcase looks like it's been here less a period of time than everything, all the other rubbish that's sitting about it. There's a lot of stuff in here which is like broken up bits of furniture. There's an old cooker, and this suitcase is pretty much tucked right into the corner. Doesn't look damaged really at all. Absolutely doesn't look like it fits in with its current environment. There's a black bin bag right underneath it, so is that foreign? Does that come with the suitcase as well? It's a decent potential, very similar to the description of the bag that we've been passed by the witnesses. It's old-fashioned, it's navy blue, the dimensions are pretty similar. The witnesses describe it having a handle in the middle. This one matches the description. It's probably like a lot of things in this inquiry. You don't know what you've got until you get it back, you get it analysed.
Sorry folks, this will be quick this morning. The postal were at 393 Paisley Road West on Saturday lunchtime, and they found a large blue suitcase. It was the right shape, right size. Campbell and Ali were doing some door-to-door in there. and they happened to notice a very nervous guy who was shaking like a leaf and had actually forgotten they'd put the suitcase out there, so it bottoms out, the bottom line. I think we're all under no illusions that we will unfortunately prove the death of Julie, but let's just not lose mind, focus around, we need to build that picture up before it, because that's the thing that will convict for murder. On the phone that we know he was using on the date in question, at 3:16 hours in the morning, the device carries out a search for fast and effective knife strikes. Then later on that afternoon, killing someone with a knife. And then on the 22nd of February, he searches into the Google Play Store for Anti-Tracker app. His handset's got over 3,000 photographs on it. There's numerous photographs of various types of hunting knives, blood-soaked knives, knives that are clearly used to commit murder, and a picture of a male standing over a clearly dead woman in a domestic setting with a blood-stained knife on the floor. Numerous photographs of suitcases, looks like he searched for suitcases. There's a picture of a medical procedure which says on it, tibial bone cut with bone saw. But can I tell you, there's not an awful lot of neutral stuff in there. That is pretty much everything you see. There's nothing about Celtic, Partick Thistle or anything else that you and I would consider as being normal. So very, very, very strange and very, very concerning.
Four 287, free to speak. Are you okay to speak? 4287, I'm currently down at an incident, I don't know if you're aware of it, at Ardshiel Road. A neighbour came out and said to the cops, listen, I think we found what looks like a bone. Would it be possible to arrange for IB to come down for photograph purposes? It's a murder inquiry, so it's kind of urgent, unfortunately.
Intention to sort of even the sellers. We'll get IB, we'll get this photographed, but it's going to have to get sectored.
Yes, get it photographed, get it recovered, get it to the mortuary.
Yeah. Our idea is a post-mortem.
Aye, that's what we've agreed. Okay, what size is this?
It's about that size.
Does it not look like a bone or a...
Yeah, potentially.
I know.
Kneecap, I don't know.
Right, okay. Right, okay, I'll need to make a couple of phone calls, so I'll need to go on to the media, and I think I need to send Chris down the road. I need to send Chris down the road.
You know, I mean, the reason we found this bad is because all you neighbours have been talking about finding flesh and missing persons.
We could do with getting some DOs here and start champing some doors and doing some door-to-door. So that we can actually even get a confirmation. Have you found anything out your back?
Aye, and let's have a look for now.
And let's have a look. All right? Okay, good plan. Great, thanks guys. Chris, how you doing? Can you speak?
Yep.
So the bottom line is, you're going to need to grab a neighbour, Chris, and start heading down to Auchinleck.
Okay.
I want to update the family that before the media starts to get a hold of this, that there's been potential. I'll need to think carefully about the words we're going to use, but I don't want to use the phrase body parts. But there's been items found in garden areas in Govan that are of concern to us. We just need to tell them that before the media started, because there's going to be a lot of forensic activity around about here, and I don't want 2 and 2 to become 9. I just want to make sure that they're aware of that. We're not saying it's Julie at this minute in time, but you know what I'm saying, Chris, yeah?
I know what you're saying, aye.
The pathologist, obviously, when he came into it, but he says, before we even looked and started it, he says it looks suspicious. I think they're thinking is, obviously, if somebody came through here, or I think it's more than likely an animal who's picked it up for whatever site and came through here. But if she is her, then the rest of us close by.
Obviously, we need to wait in the forensic activity, take every precaution that we can to recover these articles and work out what their origin is and take it from there. But the priority is always, has been in this inquiry, it's always the family, and we need to make sure that the family are looked after. It may not be Julie, and I hope it isn't, but I would hate for them to find out from some other source as opposed to us, so the family have to be my priority at this minute in time.
Well, there's more getting found. There's ones you see further in, potentially quite a lot. However, there's bones there that you or I can't, we might think they're animal bones, but we don't know. There's bones everywhere. There's bones everywhere, mate. It's like a front yard.
It's destroyed the family. I've had to be strong. I can't.
Aye, we're all round. I hope he's happy.
I sit at night myself, that's my time for sitting. And that's when I think about it. Oh. And I'll say, I just wish you'd have listened to me. Don't take him in. It's a bad thing to do. And she seemed happy.
She did.
She would have looked after him. She'd have gave him all the money, wouldn't he?
I know that. If he asked her
She'd
for all
have
the money,
gave him it all.
She wouldn't have hesitated. Near she would. She would have just given him everything.
And no see her ever again. Never to see her again. How somebody could do that, I'll never know.
No.
Never know.
Pretty horrific stuff, folks. The article that was found at the pathway of 110 Ardshield Road has been confirmed by the pathologist as a human femur, and DNA from that was confirmed as Julie Riley's leg. I think we can all deduce from that what that actually means. So it's dreadfully sad for the family. In terms of the investigation, as a team, we pull together to get this case the best it can be, so that we get Andrew Wallace through court and get him where he belongs.
It's destroyed my family. It's never going to get any better. But I'm not letting him take me. He's took my sister. He's not taking me. He's not taking my family. We'll bear him. So we will. We'll have to do it without her, but we will. I will. I know I will.
One of the maintenance staff here at Bray Head, he'd observed what he thought to be potentially a human skull in the water.
Right and chopped up, Gran, it's horrible. You just don't want this to be memory, like, You don't want to think of my mum and think of this.
To a certain extent, it all culminates in what's going to happen in the next few hours, and it's not lost on any of us.
Tell me your involvement, if any, in the murder of Julie Riley.
Zero emotion.
I'm now showing you a photograph of remains.
Getting wound up. Yep. Here we go.
I'm starting to get pissed off, man.
Just need a wee rest. You need to get through this.
You want a break? No, on you go.
My view is that Mr. Wallace's defence will be that Julie committed suicide, but we'll let the jury make their minds up. You need to do the honourable thing, Mr. Wallace. I'd ask you and I plead with you. Tell me where Julie is. Morning, folks. This is what we're going to deal with. Missing person, Julie Riley. We need to find her alive or prove that she's dead.
The last phone call I got for Julie, she told me that she was moving somebody in, a lodger in, and I disagreed with her. I said it was wrong, wasn't for her.
Around the turn of the year, Julie becomes involved in a relationship with a male by the name of Andrew Wallace. The last confirmed sighting of Julie Riley is on Tuesday the 6th of February in Aldi, and she's in the company of Andrew Wallace. From then on in, around about the 14th, there are a series of bank transactions on Julie Riley's bank card, and essentially Wallace bumps the bank account at various locations.
We need to build up a picture of why she's missing and how she's missing. Maybe trying to establish if there has been any violence in the house.
We went in looking for a body, but have we went in looking for, potentially in worst case scenario?
Oh, right. Blood seeping through the carpet onto the floor. That shows you the amount of blood that must have been on there. Right, freeze.
Mr. Wallace is in custody in relation to fraud charges concerning the use of Julie's bank cards. For me, it started the clock ticking. There's risk by not getting sufficiency of evidence.
As they open the front door to the flat, Drew Wallace is there. Drew Wallace says, "I need to get rid of a body."
Pretty horrific stuff to go around with a body in a suitcase or parts in a suitcase. The article that was found was being confirmed by the pathologists as a human femur, and the DNA from that it's confirmed as Julie Riley's leg.
How somebody could do that, I'll never know. No. Never know.
As a team, we pull together to get this case the best it can be, so that we get Andrew Wallace through court and get him where he belongs.
DS Haggerty to control.
Go ahead.
Roger, we're attending the incident down in Drummoyne Road from the major investigation teams. It was just to see kind of where you were just now and ask you if you could just hang fire till we come before going out into the garden.
I have copied all the tapes, we're just standing.
Roger, obliged. So I don't know what we're going to have when we go in here.
This is a perfect place to bury a body.
I don't particularly see anything else round here that looks, you know, freshly dug. This is the only bit here, I think, that looks disturbed. You can kind of see what's there goes underneath
That's
there.
a leg.
Aye, that's what I'm thinking.
So that's quite, that's no animal. So the plan is get scenes of crime, tent over that, secure it, 100%, that's our left leg. What we know for fact is so far we've found 2 bones and associated muscle. The brutal truth of it and however unpalatable it really is, and it's clearly not what I want the family to be thinking about. There are 206 bones in the human body. I've only got 2. And it's distressing for everyone. It's distressing for, I can't even imagine the level of distress that the family are going through.
The police never actually told me. They came and they spoke to my gran and my Aunt Lynn about it. And then my gran contacted me to come up and so she could talk to me. And it was strange because I knew as soon as I went into my Aunt Lynn's house, my gran and my Aunt Lynn were nervous and they were avoiding talking to me. And I think my gran just says, like, Mark Bell's coming to speak to get me the information. And he come in and my gran just said straight out to him, like, are you funny? And he says, we have found her, but only part of her. Initially, I thought when I was coming up here on the Sunday, I was thinking he was going to come in and say, like, we've made a mistake, like, she's fine. And the worst possible outcome that I thought we were going to get is that we've found your mum and she's not alive, but that wasn't it. It was a lot worse.
What I'm reading here is, it's been given to us today by a witness, and it's a letter that's purportedly written by Andrew Wallace, and it's an insight into his thoughts and feelings. Although I am acutely aware that due to my future, now past behaviour, individuals and their families will be hurt, comes to light for public scrutiny and judgment. My goals are mercenary. Only financial. Deception, manipulation, oh dear. In the context, I think, of everything else, it's quite certainly interesting. I've never seen anything like that before, you? No. The letter, folks, is it's bizarre, almost Machiavellian in context, to be honest with you, and there are potential suggestions of admitting that he's done something that is going to cause some family immense hurt and pain. The priority is dealing with him and dealing with the evidence. On the phone that we know he was using, Andrew Wallace sends a text stating, "Do you know how to assassinate a potential stalker?" So you'll leave that sitting there right now. And tomorrow morning, we'll go and arrest him from Barlinnie. We'll take him to Govan, and we'll take as long as is legally and necessary to deal with him. Officer safety is really paramount because he's got nothing to lose. There was a concealed razor found in his cell, so we need to be mindful of everything that we're dealing with. David, it's Mark Bell. Yes, he has been arrested at 9 o'clock this morning. Arrested on suspicion of murder.
The doctor's finished with him, fit for interview in terms of his observations. There's nothing of concern.
Give yourselves plenty of time to prep though. Don't get rushed by anything. It's the worst thing you can do is get rushed and forget to do anything.
I don't know if pressure is the right word. I would say responsibility for what is the one opportunity that you really get legally to try and find out what's happened to Julie. And it's not lost on any of us. The investigation, the initial report, the uniform response, the scientific developments, the media, the custody, the search. To a certain extent, it all culminates in what's going to happen in the next few hours.
Right, so he's happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just ask you to introduce yourself, please, first of all, by your name.
Drew Walls.
Lovely. Can I confirm your age?
41.
Tell me your involvement, if any, in the murder of Julie Riley within 321 Shield Hall Road, Glasgow.
No comment.
What exactly did you get out of the relationship with Julie?
No comment.
Was it a romantic relationship?
No comment.
Zero emotion.
A mobile number attributed to you sent the message, "Do you know how to assassinate a potential stalker?"
Look at him, he's thinking. See him?
What's that message about?
No comment.
Assassinate means to murder somebody by sudden or secret attack. Who were you referring to in the message?
No comment.
On the 6th of February 2018, a mobile number attributed to you sent a message including the phrase, "I'm trying to pull a stroke with Julie, QT, Did you send that message?
No comment.
Starting to get uncomfortable.
You were scamming her and preying on her vulnerability. What do you have to say about that?
No comment.
You've investigated on your phone ways of killing somebody with a knife. What do you have to say about that?
No comment.
What can you tell me about this letter?
No comment.
He knows what it is right away.
Can you tell me who wrote it?
No comment.
Can you tell me when it was written?
No comment.
A certain aspect of my past behaviour has now become a pressing present fact. Individuals and their families will be hurt and potentially harmed as a result of my efforts.
No comment.
What do you mean by that?
Should have dated my letter, sir. Nothing regarding this. No comment. On you go.
So you telling me that this letter was written previously?
Years ago.
Years ago.
You can fucking timestamp the fucking carbon date the paper if you like the forensic if you want. It is an old letter.
Okay.
Not regarding this case.
Right.
So
That's fine.
let's move on and we're going to get bogged mired down in this.
Horror.
Aye, she was very, very vulnerable. Not just vulnerable. But she just thought that this was another one of them ends she could help. Unfortunately, he had other plans. About just exactly what she was to face. Just about what he was going to do. She had no chance. Please just look out for your family. Ken, we believed that she would be all right, everything was all right. Just make sure if they bring somebody new into their life, check them. Please, please get them checked.
What's ultimately triggered this violent event?
No. No comment.
I do, but I'm tied up here, Monica. I'm right in the middle of this. He's getting wound up now when we're putting the hard questions to him, so I'm just watching this at the minute.
It's been reported to the police that you used the phrase, "I've murdered a cunt."
No comment.
Did you say that?
No comment.
Who's the cunt that you've murdered?
No comment.
When did this happen?
No comment.
Where did it happen?
No comment.
Why did you tell?
No comment.
Getting wound up. Here we go.
I'm starting to get pissed off. Just
You need a wee rest. You need to get through this.
Go on a break.
No, you go.
You sure?
Go.
Right, okay. I'm happy to continue if you are. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you have any discussions about
No
knives?
comment.
Did you have
No comment.
any discussion about Stanley blades?
No comment.
At that time, did you take anything into the flat?
No comment.
It's been reported to the police that you brought a suitcase into this flat. What can you tell me about
No
that?
comment.
What was in the suitcase?
No comment.
I'm now showing you a photograph of remains. That's Julie Riley's right femur. It's part of her right leg. Can you tell me how this part of her leg has come to be dismembered from the rest of her body?
No comment.
Have you deposited anything else in or around or near Ardshiel Road?
No comment.
Is there anything you can tell me about where the rest of her remains are?
No comment.
He's not going to give her up. Not at all.
You would hope that, regardless of what he's done, he would have the dignity to tell us where the rest of Julie is, but he's obviously not done that.
Okay, Drew, I'm now informing you that you're under arrest. Okay?
Okay.
I don't really have anything very profound that I want to say, to be brutally honest with you, other than simple contempt.
Police have confirmed that human remains found in Glasgow belong to 47-year-old Julie Riley. She was reported missing in February, and earlier this week, a 41-year-old man appeared in court charged with her murder. Detectives say they're continuing to search a number of locations in the Drummoyne and Govan areas.
Yesterday, one of the maintenance staff here at Braehead, he'd observed what he thought to be potentially a human skull in the water.
Panel diver, comms check.
The underwater unit are there just now. Probably going to be here till we get to low water. As per everything in this inquiry, we have to bottom absolutely everything out.
Understood, in amongst the rocks. Poor visibility, understood.
Okay, so how did you get on down at the riverbank?
I'll show you. Call comes in about 1 o'clock yesterday from the maintenance worker. He thinks it might be a skull. All the other members of staff there, including a guy, the maintenance manager or operations manager who's been there since Braehead was first built, says that's a boy. That's been there since Braehead was first here. It's got like.
It's just absolutely static there. I can't see that being in any way, shape or form being a human head. Folks, we'll just a wee quick one this morning. We've got tons to go on to do, and as we see, the calls are piling up as we speak. It's horrific what's happened out there, and there seems to be a real desire on behalf of the community to help us, so we need to be alive to that and get in and about it today. There's been, I think, in excess now of 21 calls in from members of the public in relation to suitcases. We know what we're looking for. We know we're looking for a brown suitcase, and we know we're looking for a navy blue suitcase. I got calls in last night for about a pink suitcase, a tartan suitcase, a red suitcase. So, but what we can't do is be disrespectful to the public who are taking the time and effort to phone us in. So Jess and Adam, can you take on essentially suitcase squad today in the Adam? No? All right, folks, thanks very much.
I was really just phoning just quickly to thank you for taking the time to let us know about it. Officers have been out to check the suitcase out, and it would appear to be unrelated to the inquiry.
One there. So they look as if they're quite old and things, don't they? So we can only take them and then we'll assess them.
We've
just got some special instructions and we are really against it time-wise. We're looking to have this item removed from this locus here and to be at the Queen Elizabeth by 6 p.m. tonight for our post-mortem examinations at the Theodore.
Aye, we've got another one down here as well. We're struggling, we're bottom line, we're running out of resources. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Cheers. What way did Ali go left or right?
The only thing I was going to say, there's a photographer up there just now.
He's just going to follow me, is it? Hello? Neil, it's Mark Bell, DCI for the Mix. How you doing, mate? Neil, it's just, I want to just put a wee bit of control on these multiple reports that are coming in this morning in relation to recovered bones in the Drummoyne and Govan area. Basically, what I'm needing is, see when a call comes in for suspect bone finds in this area, a uniformed station needs to attend in the first instance. Because what we're getting is we're getting emails for control rooms, emails for contact us. It's coming in from all sorts of directions, and we're starting to run around like headless chickens down here. I mean, we've just got one there, there's a set of ribs found across from a butcher's. It's nobody's fault, Neil, and I'm not complaining. It's just, we're going to, I'm swamped with media down here. Correct. Listen, I'm delighted to have this conversation with you because you're totally on the same page, mate. I appreciate that.
It's hard to describe because I just don't want... You just don't want this to be memory, like... You don't want to think of my mum and think of this. When people think of Julie Riley, they've got to think the worst in the headlines in the newspapers, they've got to think of that. Like, 'cause my mum always wanted to be a gran and she was so happy. And then, like, that title's just to be trailed through the dirt, like, as if it meant nothing. I just don't think there was any respect in anything that they've done. Like, writing chopped up gran, it's horrible.
Come. Right, ready?
Otis is trained in victim recovery.
Here, Otis. We've had recoveries from people that have been missing for 6 hours and someone that's been missing for 8 months. Here, come. Julie's disappearance was February this year. We're now into May. What we're doing is working Otis into the wind. Otis will be looking for any smell of rotting flesh. Personally, I'll be looking for any areas of concealment. Because it's such a big open park, it'll be areas that the public don't usually go to. Good lad. In. Come on. There's someone obviously homeless that's been sleeping over there. I've just got to check anything out that he's inquisitive about. Right, Otis, come on, we're out here. Where? Yes. Drop. At. It's a dead chick. Just give him a reward there because he's picked out a small dead bird. Give him a reward, remind him what he's up to.
The case currently, where we sit, Mr. Wallace was indicted last week, I believe, and we essentially wait for trial, which I think will be more than likely the start of next year.
What we're looking at here is
our examination of 321 Shield Hall Road, which is the house of Julie Riley.
There's everything in here. We've got the scene photos and everything at hand to use at court, which is really useful for us when giving evidence. So as you enter the hallway, you can see some dilute drop blood here. And that indicates that there's been dilute blood which is dripped in this area. And that's all you can see with the naked eye. And if we go further into the living room here, we can see the area in front of the couch. There was a few bits of visible blood, but nothing great that you could see very clearly. And this is what it looked like when it was treated with the luminol.
Luminol is a chemical which will detect very dilute blood. The ones in the living room are really interesting because it does show you this linear path where you could imagine dragging something along that. This is the area right in front of the couch. Quite a telling picture.
We don't have a cause of death because there was no body recovered.
What we do know is that there is no what we call impact spatter blood spots around the walls or on the ceilings, suggesting that the victim had been beaten with a weapon. So there was nothing to indicate that. So really our best idea we could give you is that if somebody has been injured in such a way that they're simply lying there and bleeding for a considerable amount of time.
Obviously, Mr. Wallace has been in custody since, but the work has been continuing during that case by our staff at the lab, who really have been doing a fantastic job. From an investigator's perspective, my view is that Mr. Wallace's defence will be that Julie committed suicide. I don't believe that Julie committed suicide in any way, shape or form, but we'll let the jury make their minds up.
I've not heard anything yet. I've just to wait the day for a phone call coming for an update. No, they'll phone me because they ken my mum's in her bed when they phone. She can't even get out of bed. I was getting ready for court, obviously, but it's been stopped. There's no court today. He's kept us for a year now, so it's just a wee waiting game now. Don't know what to expect. Don't know what's coming. I can't stop thinking about murders, about crime. I can't help it. I can't get it out of my head. 999 killer on the line, murdered by, missing. I've not watched the soaps in the past. I watch the soaps all the time, right up to date with them. I'm not even one bit remotely interested in them now, because there's nothing gruesome or horrific enough to watch on them. So it's no good for me. I need to see stuff that's going to clue me up for this trial. Hello?
What's happening today is that we've received word that the accused is likely to plead guilty.
Likely to plead guilty?